the standout set. We have the new ADC for the Levi's, Panda Cat, jumping in, his first set back, and then we have Coast, one of our rookies this year. He had a very good first phase, and now he's playing up against Panda Cat. I'm just excited to see how both these duo lanes play, how both the late games for these teams transpire, especially with Neil back in support for the Hounds. A lot of shifts, honestly. I think duo means a lot in this current meta, so I'm excited to see how these teams look now. I'm excited to see how they play.
Yeah, me as well. There's a lot of really, really high-stakes games coming up today, so make sure you stick around. And if you didn't catch yesterday, it's all best of fives. We're doing best of fives all the way through, so we could potentially have a 10-game day. I really hope we see one at least go for. 3-0s are nice, but I'd really like to see a little bit more. But let's get right into the nitty-gritty with the Eldritch Hounds. This is a team that I've really loved watching. They're a very scrappy team, but now having, and you've got some unique insight on this, Neilma in support. They had to replace their support. Quig moves over to the Camelot Kings. Now with Neil there, what do you think he brings to the team?
I mean, Neil's just the mental giant of like the entire SPL.
Such a big brain.
There's no way you're ever like tilting Neil. You could be down 2-0, 40,000 gold down in game 3. Neil's still believing you got a chance. And it's just really good to have that on just any team. Having a strong mental and just somebody that always believes you can win, doesn't really tilt, will always be there. And I think, obviously, we got to touch on the points at Worlds. He's got that clutch factor, so you can always kind of rely on Neil to play well at all points in the game, even if he does, kind of has the inbound syndrome also where he just dies sometimes or he falls a little bit behind sometimes, just like I did. Neil's still a great player, and I'm expecting some good plays out of him today.
Yeah, good leadership as well for a team that I think was primarily lacking in leadership in phases of the past. So Neilma, now out of that coach role and into play on field through support, might be able to get a little bit more hands-on, surrounded by a lot of rookie talent here on the Hounds. I'll be very excited to see how well they're able to transition having that new frontliner. It's a difficult thing to do. I think frontline is generally your identity on the team, so having that switch up coming into this event could be something they struggle along with. Otherwise, it's a team that plays through aggression. It's a duo lane that I'll be very excited to watch. I mean, you talked about him a little bit earlier, Vaporish Coast. First year in the SPL, but has been dominating the SPL level for a good long while, even during the SEC run, made his way to Worlds, and made a great name for himself. So keep your eyes on him. But he's got some stiff competition on the other side, and a fan favorite in the Atlantis Leviathans. Panda Cat is back in the studio, back in Atlanta, and back in the SPL. I'm very excited to see what he's bringing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was a little worried for like how long it was going to take him to ramp up, but he has been slamming the ranked queues. He's been getting a ton of games in, and you have two really big ego players that play for that 1v1 a lot of the times, Coast and Panda. I mean, it's just not going to be an exciting minute 10 to minute 20 game just to see what happens in that 1v1. I mean, how many solos are we going to see today? At least one, right?
At least one.
At least one.
There's a lot of best of fives coming up, and there are definitely two ADCs in that duo lane that love to get aggressive. The Atlantis Leviathans have been maybe a team that have been under the radar a little bit. I feel like they haven't quite met the expectations of the analysts at the beginning of the year. I believe most of us had them top 3 for the majority of it, as well as the fans at home, of course, have always been a massive fan of this brand in particular. What kind of team do you envision as the Atlantis Leviathans? What's their MO? What do they do well?
I mean, I think they had this weakness in the early portion of the game when it was Zatman there. A lot of their players like to play for that late game. Adapting has always kind of been that farm-oriented player. Shinto, back when he played with Panatom, would take a lot of Panatom's farm. And I think a lot of the problems with this team kind of came from that mid-jungle and then a little bit in the solo lane. They just didn't mesh all too well. And then they also couldn't look towards dual lane as a winning lane a lot of the times because they had just Zatman who wants to kind of play for that late game also. I think now that you have an aggressive player in dual lane and you have somebody that likes the game playing through them and likes to pressure his side of the map, I think it gives this Levi's team an opportunity to play that early game instead of just defaulting late. And I think it opens up the doors to them being an early game team, a mid game team, a late game team. But it does rely a lot on how Ronnie and Panda do play together.
Yeah, Ron Yu, of course, one of the most talented support players in the world. I mean, top 8, you got to be in the SPL for a reason, right? But even then, has got a very diverse god pool. Has had games where he likes to play that early aggression. I'm going back to Rongyu, Circuit support, just AFK stealth in the mid lane for 6 minutes just to catch that one kill, and then able to turn it around and play that front-to-back style, be that traditional support on picks like Kepri or Geb or any of these counter-engaged style picks like Terra as well. So this is a matchup that I think has a lot riding on it. Interesting storylines, new players to the league against returning players to the league as well. There is so much you need to keep your eyes on in this one. If you had to say, Bobby, give me one rough guess. Who's getting first blood? Who's getting game one?
Game one, I'll give game one to the Levi's. I think they're going to come out swinging, and I think first blood will be happening around mid lane. I think that
Really?
with this rejuvenated duo lane, I actually think there's going to be a lot of pressure kind of taken off of adapting and off of Shinto, and I think they're going to look a lot better in their 2v2 because of it.
Well, we'll get an insider look on how this match is going to go down. I think we have Gormizer standing by with one of the players.
That's right. I got Panicat standing by with me. And we got to talk to you after the swap had happened, but now you've had time to spend with the team, practicing all that. And so how's it been meshing with Ronghue in the duo lane and meshing with the rest of the Leviathans?
It's been going pretty smoothly. I've been inting some scrims, unfortunately, but that's how it is. For some reason, you take a break for 6 months and you're still getting camped every game, your first day back. But past that, it's gone pretty well. I think Ronnie and I have got our synergies, down to where we need them to be, and Shinto and I are getting better at communicating in the back line and helping each other when we're getting dove and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's overall been great.
And I know one of the biggest things that stood out during that interview from you was that you'd kind of looked at it. You said you were looking up where the team was, how things had gone. And I think your exact phrasing was like, 6th place, guys, that's not going to do. Do you feel like this team has elevated since you've joined?
I don't want to take any shots at the prior member, but I think we're in a good spot for sure. I don't think we're a 6th place team anymore. So, yeah.
And now today you're going to be going best of 5s to jump back in, so a relatively big set, but also taking on the Hounds, who've had a lot of, I would say, surprising success, right? They took the Ferryman to 5 during Masters, and you're going to be laning against Coast, who likes to play aggressive. What kind of things are you expecting against this team?
Listen, the name of the game when it's come to duo lane is it's always been camp duo when you have a player like that. So, I'll play my game. I'll sit back, let them try to cam me, do whatever they want to do, and then I'll have the rest of the boys carry me.
You know what? That's an easy plan to work with. Well, good luck in the games. I guess good luck to the team for carrying. We'll send it back to the desk.
I got a two-pronged question for you, Bobby. I want to glean some information from that interview.
I love questions.
He said, and I quote, when you got a player like that, in reference to Vaporish Coast, you got to camp them. What do you think that means? And I got to give you props. You said they'd be willing to play through the duo lane, clearly alluding to that as well.
Yeah. I think it's just the meta kind of, you want to play through duo. Playing through solo doesn't really give you as much. But I do think he's kind of just giving his flowers to Coast. I think that's kind of just what he was saying. He was saying this is a good player. They respect what Coast can do for that team, and they can respect what duo just means in general. And I think he was just kind of giving him his flowers. Like, he had a good phase 1, but, daddy's home, Panda's back, and, he's going to make it his duo lane again.
Yeah, and if Panicat's giving you props, if you guys have been following the scene for a good long while, you know that just does not happen super often. Panicat's got eyes on numero uno, and self-reported, he is numero uno, so giving any form of congratulations, flowers, or props to his opposition, of course, the highest praise Panicat can afford to them. I'm so excited to see this matchup, Bobby. I really do think there's going to be sparks flying in that lane, but knowing adapting, and I've had opportunities to play against him, you have as well, he doesn't really strike me as a duo camper. Adapting is more so farm it up, maybe around level 10, level 12, then he starts to get involved. Do you think maybe Panda Cat's taking the reins a little bit and say, hey man, Kenneth, get in my lane?
You kind of got to expect it. Panda's going to be that player that says, guys, I'm going for this purple buff. Be there, or I'm going to 1v3 at this buff.
I will die for it.
Yeah, so be here. And I think that's kind of what the team needed. I think adapting is willing to adapt.
Nice.
Adapting, willing to adapt. I think he's going to be going to that duo lane if he needs to go. I think he's going to be wherever he needs to be on the map. He's the king for a reason. He'll do what he needs to win.
Yeah, you couldn't make it one death segment without dropping some sort of
Honestly,
player upon Hunt.
It didn't even happen. Like, I wasn't even thinking about it. Just
His
what other
name's
word do I use to
adapting, he's
adapt?
adapting. I don't know. What else is there? I don't know. I'm not a thesaurus, man. That's not on me.
Yeah, we need just a thesaurus up here, somebody that we can talk to, like.
Yeah, or like, we've got so many screens. Like, give us some synonyms. We use the same words a little too much.
Yeah, I could do that. I'm down.
Oh, you got?
No. I'm down to use the synonyms.
All right, we're gonna waffle no more on the desk and instead get straight into P's and B's, get an idea of how these teams are gonna address each other. I am very much so keeping my eyes on the bans. You had said to me, there's been one god that's been prioritized over just about everything else.
Bog. Chernobog has not seen a single play. He's been banned all 6 games. The spicy changes he got, he now is good enough early game to live, and then he's incredible mid game, incredible late game. He's the only god that we have not seen played that's also been banned all 6 games, so I expect another Chernobog ban. I think he just does way too much. I think he's too safe, too strong, scales too well. I wouldn't want to play against him.
And he's got that adaptable build, can either go straight into auto attack. We've seen kin size, executioner, dominant style builds. The crit build seems to be back as well for hunters, with a distinct lack of some spectral armors in some of these sets. So I'll keep my eyes on those bans as they start to roll through. Across the board, we've got Pele and Sun Wukong taken away by the Leviathans, the Eldritch Hounds. Eyes on Charon and Hebo already. Yamoja will join them in the ban column. What do you think about Charon, Bobby? That god seems to me just to be maybe the most annoying support in the game.
I think that just says it right there. He's very annoying. I think he's still strong, but I think a lot of his factors just come from that annoyance. Kind of like Ganesh. A lot of people just do not like playing against him because, I mean, you get your long channel timer getting interrupted by a CC, or the silence, and then you also have his just ult that you get slowed and your procs get shredded and then you get one shot. He's just annoying. I do think he's very strong, though, and I expect to see him banned at a higher rate. I mean, we already see Chernobog banned again. No Chernobog for us. And then Raijin first pick.
Yeah, Raijin's been a quickly resurgent pick as well. Some of those changes to Raiju, having that initial burst of damage, his damage overall going up, some of the itemization changes, affording him additional CDR, seem to have brought him back into the meta. But it is already yelling to me, and you can speak to this yourself, an aggressive composition. You don't lock in Raijin to farm to mid to late game. That's the god that wants to set the pace.
I mean, we saw it yesterday. Raijin was dashing in 4 times prior 5 minutes. And also, I mean, you think of Shinto, Raijin is one of those gods that comes to mind. Yorm, another really strong pick. Other than Wukong, I think he's got to be the best solo in the game currently. And Hachi, which is weird. We saw one Hachi yesterday, not a ton of prio on it. I mean, it's a safe pick. Maybe Coast is a little worried about Pandacat, and he's picking something a little safer just to farm it up.
One of the safer hunters in the game, to be sure. One of the safer soul laners as well. The Eldritch Hounds clearly have eyes to take this game a bit longer. You can leave Jormungandr on an island. You can do the same with Hachiman and trust so long as they have their relics, so long as that ultimate is available. They should be able to survive throughout the early. The Leviathans, though, I mean, this is antithetical to the Eldritch Hounds composition. I'm seeing aggression, aggression, aggression.
Yeah, I mean, they're not farming this one up. As soon as they get their ultimates, I would expect some blinks being used, some jumps being used aggressively. We saw the On Her yesterday also, jumping in almost off cooldown. Every time we would pan over to solo lane, there'd be a fight happening in duo lane. I mean, On Her, though, that's kind of Pandacat's like bread and butter type of style. He wants to play through his lane, he wants to play aggressive, and he wants to be the reason that this team is, you know, snowballing.
How do you feel about the duo lane matchup already that's developed? We've only got the entire duo lane for the Leviathans, but On Her and Ares together, do they have enough threat to actually maybe connect some kills onto Hachiman? As Kuzenbo hover, we might have the full duo lane matchup.
I mean, On Her Ares is one of the scariest duos because they just pair well together. On Her is a really good fighting god. Ares fights, I mean, pretty well once he gets another point into his shackles. 1 point into his shackles, he doesn't really threaten all that much, but he's got really good clear, so they just match up. Their styles match up very, very strong. And then you look at the opposite way, Maui Hachi. Their styles, I mean, it's okay. It's mostly just good at everything is their style. They clear okay.
It's a good style.
They fight okay. They farm okay. I mean, if they can farm this game up and they get to late game, Hachi Maui is a lot more threatening than On Her Ares. At this point, maybe depending on what the rest of the Levi's comp comes out to, if they don't have a ton of late game, there might be a theoretical timer on this game for the Levi's.
Fair enough. The Eldritch Hounds would also have the timer, just in the inverse. Need that game to go a little bit longer to see the full value of their composition. Maui does round out the top 3. Tons of CC lockdown, great threat on relics, which should be able to force out maybe some of those ultimates, some of those heavy committal ultimates from the Atlantis Leviathans early, just to maintain their lives. Ban's starting to roll through. Eldritch Hounds take a shot towards the king. It's going to happen every time he plays. Thor taken off the table. And Bakasura as a response ban on the other side. Both teams' eyes for junglers. I mean, Thor does have some of that flexibility. Could be a ban towards a soul laner as well. Is there any picks that are standing out to you immediately as Bracken does join the bans?
I think Mercury's in a very strong spot right now.
Really?
Either side, I think he builds really well right now. I also think giving you that little extra objective damage on EFG, FG, Pyro, you can just walk to it. It really helps just to allow you to play the type of pressure and tempo type of style that you like. And what did Panda say? Games play through duo. What does Mercury do best? He likes to gank duo lane. And is he too worried about the Hachi ulting away from him? No, he's kind of just chasing him down in the ult. So I expect some Mercury contention here. I don't know if either team wants to show jungle too early. A lot of teams like to hold their jungle and solo to last pick just for that counter pick. They want to know what they're diving. So maybe we see a Mercury here. Maybe we just see a solo laner that can just kind of live lane like an Amma picked by the Hounds just to default that lane and just have a lane that farms. I guess we actually already did Yorm from over there. So
And it does default the lane and farm.
it does
you got
default
it.
the lane and farm. They're going to pick their mid laner here. They're going to give the last pick to Coast. Actually, this is one of the few teams that does like to last pick their mid laner because Benny has those funky picks. Like, honestly, this Yorm might be a flex for solo and mid for Benny. Like, he just likes playing these funky things.
Yeah, Benny is a little bit different, has always been willing to break the mold a bit coming to the mid lane. Arachne will round out the bans, though, for the Atlantis Leviathans, a pick that has been very resurgent as well. New Arachne, it's just gross. Make contact, you're stunned, you're bleeding, she's healing, and if you're surviving it, maybe she'll chase you with the ult. If you aren't, she's getting out with her ult. So there is just a whole lot of difficulty dealing with that god right now. Has seen a lot of respect here in the SPL as of recent.
I love her build, too. I think
Yeah.
her build is so hard to play against. Like, the Sekhmets.
Dude, Sekhmets is just a gnarly item.
So good.
Talk about how different Benny can be. He can also go to the standard. That Merlin is one of his favorites, and it's locked in immediately. Doesn't really have any poor matchups as far as I'm concerned. Good on siege, good on siege defense, really good on objectives. The only thing he's lacking is that secure. No secure whatsoever for the Eldritch Hounds. Maybe that does force your ADC into slightly crit builds so you can actually DPS, or perhaps get that stray 600 damage auto attack to grab the objective for yourself. This is a pick that was right back in the meta last time we had seen the SPL, and since then has quieted down a bit. The tier hover, and it's only a hover, just to switch to an even more eclectic warrior, the Atlantis Leviathans. I mean, both of those picks kind of yell mid-game to me, not exactly fully into the early, but certainly not that late-game bridge that you were calling for. How do you feel about the decision-making of the Leviathans right now?
I mean, until we actually see the god locked in, it could just be something trying to throw off the Hounds.
Oh, they threw me off.
Athena.
Okay.
Now we have something that can kind of match Yorm's ability to kind of proxy. And do you ever want to rotate to an Athena that's proxying? 99% of the time you're saying no, because if you do, she's ulting over to Gold Fury. Gold Fury is then going to be a 5v3 on that side of the map. So Athena does kind of do what Yorm does. However, the early game is just a lot worse. Okay, that's just a troll hover. Because they're not jungling Maui or
You're not putting Maui anywhere else.
Yeah.
That god's just so lacking in damage. The Eldritch Hounds maybe just surprised that Ganesh has made it as far through
That
the
could be
PvP as it is. Just, hey guys, how do we forget about this pick? Now that we've got eyes on the full Leviathans core, what do you think about this team? What's the phase of the game that they're playing? Is it good? Is it bad? Just walk me through it.
It is actually such a perfectly crafted comp. Everything
High
that their
praise.
comp, yeah, this comp is so good. Susano, playing Merlin, Hachiman into Susano, that's a field day for him. There's no instant hard CC, even with the Maui. What is Maui going to do? He's going to go jump into the air and then land half a second later, and Susano's already halfway across the map because he's just so quick. He's also got burst to deal with them. The Athena, if Susano for some reason does get locked down, can just ult onto the Susano, and Susano's now, what does she give? Movement speed, mitigation,
a big burst of damage.
Yeah, big burst of damage.
A yellow circle on the
she
ground.
joins them, taunts then after. They have
That's
a ton
right.
of CC. Their early game is crafted really well. Their duo lane wins. And, I mean, Raijin mid. Could there be a god that just kind of fits 90% of comps better than Raijin in mid lane? Do you want to play for CC out of your mid laner? Raijin. Do you want some damage? Raijin. Do you want some low cooldowns? Raijin. Poke. Raijin. Like, this comp is beautiful. I don't see, like, any weakness with their comp.
Well, maybe some issues could arise now that the Eldritch Hounds have also finished out their draft. Thanatos to round this one out. That's a very aggressive pick, and I think personally as a jungler, has a pretty decent matchup into Raijin. Raijin's primary weakness in my mind is that delay and Thunder Crash. Just takes a little while to get in the air. So often the damage will come out, but you're not teleporting with it. I mean, Hovering Death can catch him. The Silence can catch it as well. What do you think about Thanatos as an answer to this comp?
I mean, as you said, it's a good matchup, or at least a pretty good matchup into Raijin. It's also something where this Yorm could become a problem. Yorm is just going to outfarm Athena. He's going to get ahead. If Athena falls behind a little bit, the Thanatos can just visit every blue buff. Maybe the Athena becomes just genuinely in a useless spot. I think this is a good pick from the Hounds. It gives them a chance to play early. They can play through solo lane now. I mean, the Ducky Yorm, it's one of his favorite characters, I'd assume, because he plays it all the time. Maybe he just thinks it's OP and he plays it all the time. But this at least gives that Hounds team an opportunity to play the game through solo lane. And I think it helps their comp a lot. Their comp obviously scales really well. Thana, even in his early game strength, he's got an execute late game, 40%, he just kills you. And then resets his cooldowns and kills everyone else. I mean, the Hounds, they picked a good comp into the Levi's comp. I still think this Levi's comp just has a lot less weaknesses, but I mean, you're fighting fire with fire. They both kind of do everything pretty well, at least.
So we're obviously pretty big on the Leviathans draft here on the desk, but when you talk about the Eldritch Hounds, what's WinCon? Earlier it was, maybe we got to take this game a little bit later, aim for that 20-some-odd minute mark. Are you still of that mind, or has the draft development changed that at all?
I mean, late game, I don't even know if I'd want to play against the late game Levi's comp.
Oh, you're big on the Levi's
I think
draft.
that, like I said, it's crafted perfectly. I think you'd want to play through solo lane if I was the Hounds. I'd want to win that solo lane. I mean, if Yorm gets ahead, he can kind of run a game. He's unkillable. He does a lot of damage. He uses E-Staff better than any other god in the game, and it's 6% health trade from then to use. So, really, I would play through the Yorm.
So Bobby thinks it's time to play through the Hounds solo laner. The Leviathan's clearly a great draft. Let's get it over to the casters and see how it goes down.
So much Mifflin and inbound. So we jump into game 1 here. It's Gore, it's Trelly, and it's going to be Doug giving us the view in. And Trelly, very importantly, the Leviathans draft seems to be the one that everyone latched onto. And admittedly, you know, if you're looking at any piece of this, the one that stands out the most to me is the Raijin. And it's because the last time he was in the meta very significantly, and Shinto picked it, every chance he got, he went like 24-1 win-loss. Like, he lost a single game on this pick.
Yep, the Shinto Raijin is a tale that's feared across the lands. There's no doubt about it. Now this Raijin is just blanket statement better than the previous one because of the buffs, because of the addition of recipes. Shinto's going to be cooking with some bountiful bow. Those cooldowns are going to be insane. But I like that Mifflin did highlight that Raijin still does have his weakness. He's relatively easy to dive. This Thanatos can do it quite well. If Beniku's able to force out that Thunder Crash, then Oath should be able to have a field day. Topple that with the amount of dive that Ducky and possibly Neil could even provide. Should be very interesting. It's all just going to be about, can Shinto use these beefy frontliners in the Athena and the Ares to just sort of protect him? Because there's not much peel from Rongyu, right? He's going to chain, he's going to do damage, yes, but he's not going to be able to CC that much. It's all really on Fine OK, and since he's over in solo, how often is he going to be able to make that rotation? Until late game, not so much, but once late game comes, he should always be around in the fights.
I'm really excited to watch Panda Cat versus Coast over here. In the first few levels, the supports are probably going to ruin things and you know, make it the true 2v2. Keep it a fun duo lane, but that is why I'm excited for Panda Cat to be back in this lane, jumping in onto Coast. And not for anything other than maybe intimidation factor at this point. But Hachi, maybe safer clear, right, with the Heavenly Banner. It's going to create an interesting dynamic. Maui as well. I mean, you were making fun of me even earlier today because Maui's the guy I've been going to. But he hasn't been super popular in the SPL, and I, you know what? I'm okay to own that. We'll have to see what Neil's able to kind of bring this with. Because the last time Neil was playing, Maui was still relatively relevant. And so we'll have to see what he's going to be cooking up, you know, both him and Panda Cat after a pretty long break. Going to be jumping in to maybe admittedly some big shoes to fill. And Shelly says, Oath isn't going for a gank just yet. I guess we can talk about how, you know, the dual lane was the big topic of conversation, not just for myself, but the desk was talking about it. Panda Cat had even said you got to play through the duo lane, maybe camp that guy. Do you think that's the play here? Or do you like what Adapting's been doing where he typically sits over towards Fine OK?
Yeah, no, I don't see Coast getting camped too hard just because he's Hachiman, right? And it's very difficult to try and find a gank onto this character. As long as he has his ultimate, that mounted archery is going to get him out of trouble 9 times out of 10. It's not easy for a Susano to find that gank. Of course, Adapting has a pretty easy play if he can blink it and actually get that slipstream onto Coast. He can follow him and try and finish him off with that ultimate, but as long as Coast isn't getting overly aggressive, as long as he isn't getting baited in, which I would not be surprised if this does happen. Both Panda Cat and Coast love to get aggressive. They love to look for 1v1s, and they love to taunt each other. I would not be surprised if Panda Cat just starts taunting, staying back near the tower line, just enough to get Coast at that halfway point where Adapting can blink in. If he does have a solid item and a half and gets that slipstream onto him, then yeah, he could chase down Coast, he could find that kill. But if Coast keeps his ego in check and doesn't take those trades when he knows that Adapting could be nearby, he should be relatively safe.
Man, it feels like a duo lane that could have a lot of fun. So naturally, it's just been a little bit of poke here and there and nothing too crazy. Same thing goes for mid, though. Right now, realistically, it feels like Shinto, at least in my mind, I have such vivid memories of what he is capable of doing on Raijin from, I mean, at this point, what, 2 years ago? It was
Season 8, yeah.
that it was really popping off. And so what he can do, what his opportunities are going to be, admittedly, all of them were towards late game. And part of me wants to know, and should look up later, how many of those were in conjunction with Wrong Hue on Yamoja, so we can try to splice down whose fault it was they were winning so much. But it does feel just something that can be impressive, adapting on Susano. And so that brings us over towards the, I guess not necessarily unusual, Jormungandr in solo lane, right? He's been there a while. And Ducky, the last time we saw him, was trying to lock him in any opportunity. Athena, though, recently had some shifts throughout the kit, right? Nothing that was necessarily a huge buff or nerf, really moving things around to make them make more sense. Do you like FineOK taking it over into the short lane?
Yeah, I tend to agree with what Bobby was saying on the desk. I think Athena is a great look up against the Yorm. You can always just taunt out that consuming bellow. You don't have to worry about the damage too much. If someone does rotate over to try and stop your farm, you can ult away. You have that level of safety, and of course, the changes to shield wall, adding that extra slow, can be impactful up against something like a Yorm, who does not really appreciate being slowed down because of his passive, the way that he can't really be displaced, but the slows do start to add up. He's a big target. So I think that FineOK, definitely a smart look here. Also fearing that he's up against the magical and physical jungle solo combo, so doesn't just want to go in for a Genji's guard or any sort of damage at him. Goes for the Manticore spikes, recognizing health might be just a little bit more important.
Well, Coast shows exactly what you were talking about earlier, which is get on your ult, get out of jail free. Though notably, used it to avoid getting just chained, just flamed, and shot by PandaCat. Ult for Wrong Hue is still there. Beads for Coast are still there. And so there's maybe some opportunities for a stun from PandaCat on the on her. Maybe engage from Wrong Hue. And I will say, it feels really nice, the Athena. You were talking about the slow on the shield wall now. Feels nice not having to dash and hit somebody, use the one thing you can to either engage or escape, just to make sure that they're going to slow down. It also feels good watching the Leviathans again. This is a methodical team, though a lot has changed, Trelly. If you think about what this team was when they won their championship and what they have now, although a lot of them still have the world champion tag, PandaCat included. The Hounds, though, most recently, I mean, a massive 5-game set against the Ferryman and Masters. And right now, about 600 gold in their favor. We're going to hit the 6-minute mark here in a second. And nobody's really gone. It's not even like a, oh, hey, they've missed first blood, somebody narrowly got out. They have not been looking for fights. I mean, a couple of pokes, a little bit over in the long lane, but nothing substantial from these teams. And is that more or less what you expect when you see these drafts?
Yeah, I think there was opportunity for some ganks, right? We see that time and time again, Oath is on time for the shield buff spawn over and left. The Thanatos will be at shield buff when it spawns in, every time if he can help it. And the question is, are Wrong Hue and PandaCat pushed up, or are they backing up? More often than not, they're retreating, right? They are responding to that aggression. And if Oath is constantly here on the left side of the map, you better believe Adapting is keen to that. Now he's showing up to the shield buff. Not pulling it, though. Hiding. Looking for an initiation if possible. Oath doesn't have beads, so he would have to use that hovering death to get away from Wrong Hue. And that means he does have to respect the fact that there are 3 members of the Leviathans here.
Yeah, ward coverage great from the Leviathans to make sure they've got vision on this. And a good drop on the shield buff as well to make sure that it's not stolen by the Heavenly Banner. PandaCat scoops that one up. And Trelly, it's like a chess match. It's all about the movement. Neil Ma pressure onto Shinto in mid, but that's going to be quick thunder crash and out. So it's all in the mini-map, honestly. I've been watching that more than anything here just to see how these teams are moving. I think Wrong Hue wants a little more. Didn't go for the blink, so has to walk in the old-fashioned way if he wants a big ult. It is still going to at least apply some pressure. The chains do a lot of damage here.
Oh.
If he had a little bit more follow-up, or more so if Neil wasn't solid at peel, that could have been a kill. But Benny Q gets to walk back under mid-tier 1 with half health. And it is going to be mid-camps on the left side going to the Leviathans.
Yeah, you gotta have your ward coverage down. If Rongyu makes that wrap play and Raiju gets exploded, BennyQ is almost certainly dead because he's forced to beat and flicker away, still in range of Rongyu. He's almost certainly getting pulled back, and then you have to try and juke out Taiko drums, and it's just not a good time. But BennyQ plays it perfectly, and as you said, Neilma with the peel makes sure that Benny gets to hold on to his beads, and he's not in too much trouble. With the influx of Bountiful Bow, we've seen pretty much every support defaulting to getting that meditation and getting Cloak of the Ascetic online as quickly as possible, because you've got cooldown resets with your recipe, you got cooldown resets with your relic now, and it just really helps out for your team fight. Rongyu already has that. Neilma a little bit behind, has not quite upgraded his relic, maybe waiting a bit more. Rongyu's also looking towards the left side of the map, possibly looking for an engage, misses the chain, and adapting. He's just going to have to go for the shield buff again.
It's crazy watching a fight disappear like that right in front of your eyes. Like the minute you see the leap from Neil and the chain goes underneath him, you just know. There's no chase, there's no follow-up. Adapting made the rotation this time. Oath on the right side of the map. So shield buff going to be contested slightly by the Hounds, but the 3v2 doesn't look like something they want to take too often. The other thing that really stands out to me, Trelly, you know, a lot of the gods that I jump to, like Maui's not necessarily meta, but like you can come up with plenty of reasons why he's still there.
Right.
Anhur hasn't really been in that is he meta, is he not meta discussion. It feels like he's always just kind of, he's Anhur. He's separate from the rest of them because he 1v1 so well, and it feels like a comfort pick to go to for Panda Kid.
Yeah, Anhur is my second favorite ADC at the moment. I will say that Rama is still my cream of the crop. I just love that late game, but Anhur, what he provides in my mind is great 1v1, as you said, but also great jungle fight. If I see a Thanatos coming into my lane and I'm on her, I'm not too worried. I'm going to be like, okay, go ahead. Try and ult me. I'm going to jump over it. Try and get near me. I'm going to impale you away. You need to CC. I've got my ult. He's survivable despite not having that level of safety. Even that with Coast, right? You can block Heavenly Banner with your pillar. You can even block the ultimate with your pillar. There's a lot of counterplay, and I think Panda Cat just wants to be on something that's comfortable and that he can deal with himself. He knew for a fact that he was laning with an Ares. He's going to have to fend for himself a bit, right? If that chain is missed, Rongyu's going to say, here's some HP 5, bro, good luck. And that's the end of the peel. So Anhur can fend for himself pretty well. Not to say that it's going to be this top meta pick just because he can fight well. And now Coast might be in a little bit of trouble. Boxing well, but here comes adapting.
Yeah, perfect. Close out, you would think, but Coast makes it up onto the horse.
He missed the 3.
And just walks away, and sometimes it's just that simple. You're not going to lock him down that easily. And it was essentially a 3v1 with Rongyu joining alongside adapting. And despite the positioning advantage, just unable to make that one work. BennyQ takes a lot of poke in mid. Leviathans look like they're hungry in the water. Knock up, not going to connect. Neil goes into the sky with the landfall. Pulls up the island, taunted back in, has the chain for the no escape. The Leviathans are not letting him go, and at 10:52, they put first blood on the board.
Yeah, that's a lot of ultimates to use, but hey, you got to confirm that kill. Unfortunately for Neil, once the chain's connected, it was pretty clear he was going to have to ult defensively and try and get away, and once that ultimate was down, it's pretty clear he was also getting pulled back in. Coast doesn't have the ultimate this time, but the chains coming in from Rongyu should be a guaranteed kill. It has to connect him, and he does. Now Coast, who are you going to give the kill to? Rongyu picks that one up.
I don't know if he needed it, but I don't think they're going to complain, right? A kill's a kill. Didn't pull the beads, so Coast holds onto the relic, which is probably going to be very helpful for him. But Charlie, 10 minutes, almost 11 full minutes of hardly any fighting, maybe some poke here and there, the opportunities just not presenting themselves openly. Suddenly you get 2 kills for the Leviathans, now you're getting a small invades from the other side. Fine, okay, might be the target of aggression. Up into the sky goes, oh, then he jumps too soon, Fine, okay, with the dash gets out of there, and the team comes in to turn things around. Neil Ma's in trouble, and with one more, Auto Shinto closes that out. Thunder Crash, forward onto Ducky, keeps him locked down for just a second. The chains, good, the damage is there. You need a little help, and you're tanking the tower for your team. Fine, okay, goes back to base, comes back in, looks for the kill, and finds what he needs, puts Ducky down, and it's a 5-0 lead for the Leviathans.
I'm not saying that fight goes like exquisitely better if Oath gets that executed, but there was no reason to insta-pop it. Fine, okay, already had the dash charged. I understand the mindset. If he goes right now, maybe the dash isn't charged up yet, but it just took too long. Unfortunately, Oath up downs, does not get the kill. does not confirm anything on the final. Okay, he's able to retreat, go back to base, ult back in, and that is a disastrous turn of events there for the Eldritch Hounds. Of course, the Leviathans were already in the lead, but now you're putting so much XP in the pockets. That Fury could be something that they're looking towards. They decide against it. They just go in for the farm. The Pyromancer hasn't even spawned in yet. They'll just take their beacon and decide to retreat. Either way, 5-0. Now you have to look at the Relic situation as well. BennyQ doesn't have anything. He couldn't really even step up in that fight because his beads and Aegis were down. But Coast hasn't even been able to get back and get his second Relic, sitting on just beads, no Aegis in tow. And he's been playing so safe up until this point. Now that he's got ward coverage, can push up in that lane. But it's all on the Leviathans now. I expect a Pyromancer pull relatively soon, maybe with PandaCat's help. If he has to clear a wave, then rotate out. But at the very least, try and keep pushing this lead forward.
Fine, okay, right now, still bullying. Pyromancer. And Trelly, you know, I was making jokes about it earlier. It's the partner anniversary for Smite game today. And I was talking about Prime subs constantly, which, by the way, for everyone in chat, those are free. You can just use them on the channel anytime you want. It's a button. If you look at like Oath's player cam right now, and then just like look slightly below that, assuming you're not in theater mode, there's like this big purple button. You can just press, and there's a free sub available for you every month if you have Prime Gaming. Which I only mentioned because the Pyromancer comes up, and we were talking about at this point, but Pyromancer was linked to it. And that goes over to the Leviathans pretty easily. It's a Runic Bomb for Wrong U. A little bit more than just the Pyromancer and a Runic Bomb. It's going to be the purple buff. Thought they would go for a fight, maybe a Fury with how many people they had rotating over to the left. But it's just a small invade. Leviathans now up a little over 2,000 gold on the Hounds with the 5-0 lead. And Trelly? They've gone back to taking it easy. They know where their advantage is, and maybe more so, the Hounds know that they just can't step up to it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you have a Pyromancer down, so Wrong U's got the Runic Bomb in tow. Could group up and just try and push down a tower. Or possible Gold Fury attempts, all of which are in the Leviathan's wheelhouse. With FineOK having that ultimate as well, can show up at any moment, right? That Defender of Olympus can make sure that this Athena gets active, can keep split pushing until a fight is needed. Whereas Ducky has to use that teleport. There is still ward coverage down. Ducky can always follow, just not as quick, not as immediate will that the rotation come through. So I want to see a Gold Fury pull, or at least a bait towards the Gold Fury. Sometime in the next couple minutes. I mean, Beacon's down, Pyro's down. The lead is in your hands if you're the Leviathans. Maybe they were just waiting for Wrong U to hit 12 so he could grab that blink. Now they have a linear form of initiation. He can blink in, hit the chains, try and force beads. Look towards BennyQ. He's got no form of CC immunity available except for those beads, so once those are down, your engage looks a lot easier. Either way, grouping on the left side of the map, showing face towards that objective is the call. And look at FineOK. He's not over in lane for a reason. I'm thinking Gold Fury could be coming soon.
The good thing about FineOK, I mean, one, you've got the teleport online, but you also have Athena ult, right? You can just rotate in whenever your team needs it. He's going to be hanging out in mid. And the Beacon's not going to come back up for a few minutes here, so it does look like an immediate pull. Wrong U starting up the Gold Fury, PandaCat and the rest of the team rotating in to pick it up, and not a single Hound in sight. Instead, Oath and Ducky right now pushing down the right side lane, get a tier 1 in response. But it's a Gold Fury over to the Leviathans. And Trelly pushing themselves up a little bit further. The gold lead's not too out of hand at this point, 2,500. With that experience, almost 5,000. Is pretty massive, and you're seeing that lead, you know, a level here or there. 2 levels for both of the duo lane. Now, this could be a big moment for Neilma. Unfortunately, the stun is a little too readable. PandaCat gets out of there, no problem, but 16-14 for Panda over Coast, 12-10 for Wrong U over Neil. That's where a majority of that experience is going to be sitting.
For now, PandaCat's going for a solo invade. Wrong U's on the way. Should be able to help out just by threatening the fact that he's on this side of the map, so the Eldritch Hounds have to retreat. I mean, at this point, Gore, it's going to be Pyromancer and Beacon up again, and the question is, do the Eldritch Hounds have a way to step back up? Sure, BennyQ, top XP in the lobby, the only one level 18. 000 has been sitting relatively farm-free at this point, so he can do some big damage. But my main issue at the moment of the Neilma can't do much. His engage doesn't have many great targets. Yeah, you can pull back in Raijin pretty easily, or just pull the beads. Adapting could be good, but he's got so much movement. Wrong U's not going to care too much, and now Coast is getting Tove underneath the tower. His beads are down. That's at least going to net the tier 1.
And Panda Cat showing that it's just as simple to do it as it used to be. Walked in for the stun clean. And I was going to compliment him. I think the Olympian on her, just those autos.
Oh, yeah.
Feel so clean, so smooth. And it has to feel right at home for Panda Cat. Pyromancer started up by the Eldritch Hounds, getting taken down to about half health. Neil and Ducky step forward. There is going to be a response here. Good taunt from Fine OK onto Oath, forces him up into the sky, and he's going to come crushing down. This time, he gets the execute, takes care of the Athena from the solo lane. Pyromancer still going to be the main target. Raijin, a lot of damage there onto Ducky. Landfall pulls up but doesn't pull in. Wrong You tries the same but unable to find anything with his ultimate as he goes fishing. Shinto goes forward, getting a little extra damage. Oath in trouble. Autos from Panda and damage from Adapting. Make sure this goes 1 for 1. Wrong You. Super Low has to fall back. And Adapting, while he's playing aggressive, seems to recognize something a little bit better. The calls come out, and it's Pyro. Leashed over towards Panda and Shinto. Benny steps back in. Leviathan secure it. Panda Cat even jumps forward, uses the beads, and is trying to stay aggressive. Adapting down to Coast in the back. He's able to find a nice solo kill against the jungler. So now a 1 for 2 trade. The Hounds pick up their first couple of kills of the game, and the Pyromancer still going the way of the Leviathans.
Man, I mean, that fight all kicks off with a great pick there from the Eldritch Hounds. I was wondering how Final K got shredded so easy. Then I looked at his build. He did not have that tier 2 Spellbound Kusari. It was just Manticore Spikes, Glad Shield, Relic Dagger, right? A lot of HP, not a lot of prod. Immediately gets shredded through and recognizes, hey, Benny Q kind of burns me. I'm going to need to get some magical defense online as soon as possible. Does pick it up. And then unfortunately, the pick after the fact. You see that at the very least, Coast was able to find a 1v1 versus Adapting in the jungle, so not all bad there for the Eldritch Hounds. But it started off so well. I really thought that they would be able to turn that into a Pyromancer and an easy retreat, right? You're behind, you don't have to stick around, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. Take your pick, take your Pyro, get out. But unfortunately, the Leviathans still demand respect. And they were able to pick up that Pyro despite losing Final K and pick up some picks afterwards. Now Oni Fury, topic of conversation. That's going to be up real soon. Both teleports are available at that point because Ducky's is up in 15 seconds. But doesn't seem like there's an immediate look towards it. Actually, the Leviathans are grouping up towards Fire Giant.
He's got a 4,000 gold lead right now to play with. 4 kills over, but like you said, just 20 minutes in, a little over.
They want Ducky?
They're going for the fight. They pull in Ducky. They've got the taunt. They're going for a little bit more. And the ult from Adapting, not for the knockup, just for the damage. And they find the kill there, but it's a group up from the Hounds to match. Tier 1 in right from the Leviathans. Traded for the Tier 1 in mid as the Hounds continue to push forward. They're going to take the Tier 2 in mid, no problem. And at this rate, we're looking at a small base race as the minion wave favoring the Eldritch Hounds. Fine, okay. A step forward is going to be here for a defense, but what can he do? Taunt in onto Neil Ma. Get some good damage out there, but they still lose the bird. Now his job, stop the backs, so your team can try to find one to match. It seems like that's going to be easily done. Panda Cat with a lot of damage. Now with the chains here, Neil Ma is going to go down. Shinto will pick up a kill, and that's going to be a pick onto Neil, a respawning Ducky currently. And Trelly with the Phoenixes going down, 1 in mid and 1 in right. You have to imagine now the Leviathans feel confident in their Fire Giant.
Yeah, I love that play from the Leviathans. I thought it was just fine. Okay, being sent back immediately. Wrong You says, hey, we just need Adapting and Panda Cat to actually get that right side bird. Now, we send the whole squad back, get the pick on a Neil, and get a free Fire Giant for our troubles. Sure, you lost mid Phoenix, but you got Fire Giant. Just group up and push through mid lane and deal with those fire minions directly. The Eldritch Hounds grab the Oni Fury, sure, but those minions shouldn't be that big of a deal. The Leviathans are able to push up, and they're not even going back. They're just going to grab this Tier 1 tower first, all the while Adapting is still farming up, trying to hit level 20. What is the next play, though? Group up, look in the jungle. Coast is pushed up. I don't think that Adapting can stop his back. He's not quick enough. But they do have to worry about Oni minions and the fire wave pushing up mid. But, hey, the Eldritch Hounds also have to worry about their right side wave, right? That Phoenix was matched by the push from the Leviathans.
Yeah.
And now they're just trying to get Adapting level 20 and figure out how they're going to siege down these Phoenixes.
Honestly, I was surprised we waited this long to see some of the backs come through. It was 2,000 gold, or just about 2,000 in hand for Panda Cat before he backed. It is 2,000 in hand before Ducky. And it felt like, I mean, you got a Tier 1, a Tier 2, a Phoenix, another Tier 1, the Fire Giant. you had so much gold just sitting in your pocket waiting to be spent. And some massive power spikes coming online. And I guess now this leads us to a discussion that Myth was sort of heading on the desk as we got into it, which is we know Merlin pretty solid at defense, but how's the rest of the Hounds look as the Leviathans start to step up?
It's not easy, but I will say you always have to watch those health bars, right? Oath executing your tank who is tanking up a tier 2 or tanking up the Phoenix is always a threat, even with meditation. It's not easy for Rongu to get out of threshold if he has to tank up a Phoenix or a tier 2 tower. Benny Q's just going to keep clearing the waves, though. Chucking out big AoE damage, hopefully put a stop to the push of the Leviathans, and try and focus out Panda Cat. He's the best look at trying to get one of these Phoenixes down. But with 2 runic bombs in tow, Final K and Rongu, if they can get in, they could absolutely destroy a Phoenix before the siege even begins, really. So I'm thinking that's the easiest call, as you can see, why it's so difficult to push into Merlin. Everyone just getting poked out when Benny Q steps forward.
We got the minion wave here. Panda Cat a couple of autos. That'll knock down the tier 2. Taunt good from Fine OK onto Benny Q. Forces the beads early. And that might be a saving grace here for the Leviathans, giving them an opportunity to get aggressive under Phoenix. Clearing out some wards on the right side of the map. Stygian Beacon's going to be coming in soon. Pyromancer's up now. Fire Minion's going in on right. The Leviathans decide to pull back. Go for the neutral objective in the Pyro. And Trelly, in some instances we've seen, when the beacon comes up around this 24-minute mark, you might want to leave it alone so you can actually go into the Titan room and kill it. But it feels like with the pace these teams have set, and specifically the map state right now, might as well get the Titans out here, see what you can push with them.
Seems to be the call. Leviathans go back. Some crucial power spikes, still adapting. Finally, I believe we'll upgrade to that Bumbus Hammer, which he does. I've not sold the Bountiful Bow yet. Holding on. I know that Shinto probably has plenty of gold in hand. Yeah, about 3K at this point, so could go back.
This is about to be a full item.
Yeah, buy a full Rod or Divine, whichever one he's really looking towards. That's usually the last time. Actually goes for the Typhon's Fang. That's going to be interesting. The extra percent pen, certainly beneficial. Be proccing it that easily. Either way, plenty of damage coming from Shinto. 3-0-4 has been level 20 for, I want to say, a solid 6 or 7 minutes now at this point. He just got extra farm flooding in towards that Raijin pick. But remember those Phoenixes that were gone earlier? Those are now respawned, both mid Phoenix for the Leviathans and right for the Eldritch Hounds. As them back up, Final K is going to cap this last beacon slowly but surely, and we'll see that the Titans will be unleashed over in left lane. Exactly what the Leviathans were looking for. They still have a tier 2 tower to take out, so that makes sense. I don't think you go in for the bird, though. I'm thinking that's going to be a tier 2 push. Grab yourself a Fury. They might not even push in with the Titans, honestly, if they feel that a lost fight, or if they overextend means the Fire Giant goes down. Playing this one slow seems to be the call.
Yeah, very tame power play, right? They got the Fire Giant, and I think they knocked down the tier 2 in mid, and that's pretty much the only thing they got with the FG. They had taken the right side Phoenix before that. And now, Primal Fury and the tier 2 in left going to go down after the FG wears out. And so the Titans are going to start moving. Looks like a reset back from the Leviathans. Fire Giant going to be spawning in around 30 seconds or so. And so, Trelly, I guess the question is, where do you put your focus if you're the Hounds? Do you step to the Fire Giant fight, knowing it's not enhanced, but knowing that it's very dangerous to let go? Or do you do, I guess, more or less with the grouping we're seeing right now, stay with the Titans, see what you can push back? Yeah,
no, you definitely destroy this Titan immediately, give up that Fire Giant. It's not enhanced, it is not the end of the world, and you work on trying to hit some crucial power spikes. That's the only play here for the Eldritch Hounds as far as I'm concerned. It's not like the lead is so insurmountable that you could look for a possible defense under your Phoenix, but a jungle fight could just be the end of the game. So I like this call. Immediately deal with the Titan, make sure that yours is still marching forward, and then back up. Prepare for essentially the Phoenix Siege that is going to save your game, hopefully, right? You hope that Rongu blinks in, doesn't find too crucial of an ultimate, he tanks up Phoenix for too long, and then Oath's able to find and execute, then you chase them down. That's the dream situation there for the Eldritch Hounds. Not saying it's easy, because of course Rongu is level 20 and has essentially full build besides his Bountiful Bow, whereas Neil was looking for table scraps to hit level 15 so he could finally upgrade that Sentinel's Embrace. I mean, had to pivot into cheaper items like Magi's just to get some damage online, or some tank stats rather, because this Maui has been melting first in all the engagements.
Yeah. 4-level difference still, 4-level deficit.
He hasn't even stacked his his recipe yet. I didn't even realize.
That actually maybe hurts more than anything. He's not been getting the benefits. You were actually highlighting some of those earlier. At least the combination of what the bow can give you with the cloak when you upgrade your meditation. We haven't gotten to really see that from Neil. Unfortunate for the Hounds. As now left side Phoenix, pretty soft defense from the Hounds overall. They are going to step forward though and force the Leviathans to fall back before it goes down. Couple autos is going to be all it takes. They've got a single big minion to try and get it done. There's the rest of the crew as they walk forward, but it's this weird balance. Chelly Hounds have enough going for them. Trying to step through this narrow pathway could be devastating. Minikyu specifically, a lot of damage from him. They have to be worried about it. And there's going to be one, at least massive cooldown for him. Maybe not massive, but something to keep him going. Wrong Yu steps in. Couple of autos from Panda's all they need. Neil's taking up the damage, but maybe he doesn't want to. A lot gets thrown their way. Maui goes in for the landfall, pulls in Fine. Okay, up to the sky goes Oath, looking for the execute. But if he goes in on Wrong Yu, it's too deep, and he just can't find it. Taunt a little short from Fine. Okay, does not matter. Phoenix is the target. Phoenix is the goal. And they find that one, plus Coast, plus Oath as they surge forward into the base and find everything they've been looking for. Double kill for Shinto the Titan. In trouble, Neil Ma goes down to add a third for the mid laner, and the team keeps on pushing. First game over to the Leviathans.
Wow, I mean, you could see what the plan was. It was written in the stars, right? Get a low health Wrong Yu, get the execute, chase out. But the meditation baited Oath. He went into the sky. He's like, wait, every single tick that comes through, he could be at a threshold. Decides not to go forward. Adapting goes to the back line, just deletes the carries. And by the end of that game, Oath did less damage than Neil. That Thanatos never got a chance to shine. Bottom of the charts. I mean, 3K total.
Yeah.
I think Neil did 32. Very low damage, low fight game from the Eldritch Hounds. They just couldn't find a way in.
I mean, first blood didn't happen until essentially 11 minutes in, and all of a sudden we saw it go first blood, then second blood, and then the next fight it's 5-0, and yeah, they were able to turn some kills around, but it took a little while to get there. And I think the damage numbers that you threw out for Oath maybe highlight it more than anything where things were going for him.
Yep.
And it wasn't in the jungle, it wasn't in the fights, it wasn't in the neutral objectives, and it wasn't in game one, at least as far as we saw.
Yeah, I'm thinking game two, definitely need to switch up draft-wise. Letting this Raijin through maybe is a big issue. It didn't seem like there was any reason to dive to Shinto because no one could out-damage him, right? If you can't kill him in that ultimate, why even near him?
And you know what? That's probably that's at least step one on probably a 5 to 10 step plan for the Hounds to try and get things back under wraps. They've got a lot of things to figure out, and of course they got a little bit of time to do so. We're going to kick it to a quick break, and then when we get back, it's game two.
to the code switching. Been hitting my soul, been on the ropes. I'm ready to grow, so get to know me. Keep your head up, I want you to grow with me.
Welcome back, Smite fans, and that was a quick one. Still Mifflin, still Bobby on the desk. Leviathans obviously off to a very fast start there. I mean, you called it. Perfect draft. You'd really expected to get started quickly, Bobby, and you were absolutely correct. But before we jump into the nitty-gritty, before we start doing all that, what was it that you said? All that great analysisizing. Good stuff, Bobby. We've got some big news for you, Smite fans. Avatar Chest, available now in-game. Make sure you're checking that one out, getting all your cool Avatar The Last Airbender swag. I'm talking the guy who drinks tea. I'm talking the one with the arrow on his head. I'm talking about not a Pokemon. I'm talking about the Earthbender. And I'm talking about Roku, the one that everybody knows. Avatar Roku, obviously like the 16th Avatar in the line. Go ahead, log in now. It's 600 gems to pick that one up. And why wouldn't you? If you're playing any of those gods and you're not using those skins, we're all assuming you're just worse at the game. And you don't want that prejudice on you. I mean, Bobby, you use those skins, right?
I mean, I do, but I'm just disappointed that you had to say the Pokemon-looking one.
What are you talking about?
The one with the arrow on his head. Like, that's just disrespectful.
I know all those guys. You didn't hear me say Roku?
I'm just so disappointed. I'm like fuming right now that you didn't name a single one other than Roku.
That's the deep cut, bro. That's how I prove. Everyone at home knows, guys. I know Avatar, guys. I'm a ball knower. Do I look at the type of dude who doesn't know Avatar? Bobby.
I mean, it doesn't matter what you look like. You just didn't know.
Okay. Let's talk about the game, Bobby. Let's get back on track. It's the Atlantis Leviathans with a really strong composition that dominate legitimately every single portion of this game. What'd you see?
I mean, kind of just how it was expected to play. Dual lane was the focus. That's what Panda said. We're going to be playing around dual lane. The first play started being made around dual lane. Panda got ahead, and honestly, Coast kind of got sat on a little bit, and he didn't get the same amount of help that Panda actually did, and so it wasn't really ever a 1v1. A couple times Panda actually baited him into kind of taking almost a 1v1, kind of playing on Coast's ego a little bit, and he actually just got baited into a couple deaths or getting his beads or his ult forced. Mid-game, flawless. Like, their team fighting was just so strong, and it was so, like, it was just like their strength that's what they played around, and they played around it really well. Honestly, shout out Hounds. They made a couple good plays. Their macro in that late game portion, trading Phoenixes, even when they were so far behind, was solid. But when it came down to it, the 5v5 of the Levi's was just way too strong.
Yeah, a bit of a draft death there in game one. I got to give you some props, though, Bobby. You had said on the initial desk, the only way you saw the Hounds picking up a kill was a literal execute onto Athena, and that's really all that worked out for them, so good eyes on you. I suppose spotting some opportunities for the Hounds. Not enough to get them through the game, but certainly still, you deserve some credit. The Atlantis Leviathans, they have to have their draft restricted. The Hounds have got to be talking about how they take away those individual pieces. There was just so much value in their top three as we take a look at the post-game stats to see exactly how that one goes. Keep your eyes on the supports and jungles. 1-0-11 for Rong Yu, 12 affected kills. He was really setting the pace early on and was actually a part of the first 5 early rotations out of that areas and tons of damage as well. And then Adapting, of course, has himself a very good performance. Standouts, of course, across the board. Only 2 deaths. Not really a whole lot to complain about from the Leviathans. The Hounds, though, in a best of 5, at least have the leeway of saying, well, game 1 maybe doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah, and with that, I hope that they kind of learn. Shinto on Raijin, I mean, that was like a vintage Shinto game. He did 20k. The next highest was 13. And then, I mean, Coast was behind. If you're behind on Thana, it's really hard to get damage out. He only ended up doing 3k. 3k from a jungler, I mean, it's not really going to get the job done. So I think it's like the rest of the comp that was more so the problem, that the comp that the Levi's got more so than the Hounds outright comp was just bad. There was just so many strengths in that Levi's comp. I want to start with that Raijin ban, get that out of there. You can beat Ares on her. They do like the one thing well where they just have a strong laning phase and you just have to play for late game. But start with that Levi's, Raijin, get that out of there. Maybe even take first side, see if they can get a prio pick from it and kind of go from there. I don't see anything else from this comp that was really strong though.
So as we jump into P's and B's, we'll see if some of those adjustments are made. You're calling for a Raijin ban, but there still are so many picks right now. It feels like that you just really need to deal with. Leviathans in that first pick position once more. We'll go ahead and take away the Pele, themselves a god that has been dominant, has that flexibility, could go jungle, could go mid. Wherever he goes, going to be real fast, has all that fuel available to him with those changes. The Eldritch Hounds, though, will take one dedicated target ban and a takeaway from the Leviathans, starting off with that Ares. Rongyu just having a bit of a too good game there. But Raijin still available, still a major contention point. Can you see the Leviathans, if Raijin's available, just taking it first off?
I mean, you kind of have to. They first picked it last time. The picks are kind of laying out the same for the Levis. The only thing changing is, right now, Bog is getting through, Raijin is getting through, or Hebo is getting through. The opportunity that the Hounds have in front of them is, if they don't think Bog is that much better, they just off-ban. Throwaway ban this on her, throwaway ban the Athena, something, just throwaway ban it, and you get a 2-for-1 trade. They first pick Bog, you get Raijin Hebo, put the Hebo in the jungle. There's a lot of opportunity for what the Hounds want to do with their draft here, and if they don't play one, or if they do think that Bog is just way too strong, and they think the Raijin is actually even more strong than the Chernobog, this is our first Chernobog game we're going to be able to get if the Levi's prio it.
Yeah, up until this point, Chernobog had been banned in the first phase of every single game and set during this event. This is the first time he has been competitively available, and Leviathan snap lock it immediately. It's that global presence, it's the damage output. Is it the itemization? What is it, Bobby, that makes this god just so strong?
All the above.
Okay.
Itemization, his kit's just really strong right now. Those changes really helped him out. I mean, his one weakness, obviously, he's not the greatest laner. He doesn't clear wave all too well. He doesn't fight in laning phase all too well. But, I mean, last game went 10 minutes without a kill. A Chernobog that's not doing anything for 10 minutes is the Chernobog I want on my team. Because then late game comes, he's going to be just shredding through everyone. Also, Fail Not is incredibly strong right now for him. He gets the mitigation from Fail Not on top of the mitigation from, or I guess it's damage reduction that Fail Not gives. And then he gets to ult in with also 20% mitigation. So Chernobog uses that item really well. He can even dive backlines like no hunter can.
And now it's the Eldritch Hounds considering another Jormungandr lock-in. So what we'd seen from them in response last time around. I mean, I've always just said if you're locking Jorm this early, it's mostly about the safety. If items are good, I mean, he doesn't really have a poor laning phase. Do you think this is a good response from the Hounds, or would you like to see something else?
I mean, is it not risky to let them have Chernobog first pick and then have Hebo second pick? The flex potential from Hebo playing both jungle mid, Chernobog playing jungle mid or ADC mid. I mean, maybe some semblance of jungling, but I'd expect not. And they go for the Honor now. So now, this Hebo is left open. Hebo, a good pick also into Honor. The Carpet just gets rid of Honor slow on his one, or from the Shifting Sands. It just seems like the Levi's are setting themselves up with this draft, and the Hounds are kind of just playing right into it. Like you said, I agree. I don't know where the Jorm value kind of comes from. It's a god that just kind of does what it does. It wins lane, and it's a god you can rely on. It's reliable. Maybe that's why they like it. But Hebo just has so much value at this point. It's just a little mind-blowing to see it just kind of glossed over.
Yeah, and talk to me about this on her pick a little bit. We've been seeing it a lot. I thought maybe it was just a flavor pick yesterday. I believe we've seen it once, maybe twice. Today, Panicat plays it. We know it's been his MO for a good long while. Is on her like that guy right now? Is he just that strong, or is it just both of these hunters like to play aggressive and on her fits that style?
I think you have to assume it's that. Nothing's happened with on her. His build isn't any particularly better than another hunter's build. I think it's just both Coast and Panda like this god. If he takes the honor, maybe there's a little extra pressure on the Chernobog going to Panda, so there's no double ADC or something like that. But I think it's just Coast saying, I got kind of bullied a little bit last game. Give me the on her. I'm going to do what he did to me, play around my lane.
Yeah, a vote of confidence from Vote saying he could do exactly what Panicat was able to accomplish just himself. Leviathans taking some time with their second and third pick, working through that bank time. 30 seconds left there. I mean, you've essentially got the field available to you. You brought up the Hebo as maybe just a strong flex pick. Could go mid, could go jungle. Regardless, will still do massive damage and have decent matchup into the on her. Instead, it's the Horus locked in, and the Amaterasu hovered as well. A very strong front line from the Atlantis Leviathans. We were concerned about initiation. Don't be anymore. That's all you need.
I mean, Chernobog, Horus, Ama. A ton of global, a ton of movement speed. There's so many ways for them to play around the map. The macro that kind of just opens up to them, their ability to play solo lane and duo lane and mid lane, all essentially at the same time with this P's and B's. it just opens up kind of what they can just do whatever they want in this second phase of picks. I think that they maybe should have picked the Hebo there and opted to delay the Horus or something, but if they just don't see value in Hebo, if they want like just a true mid laner and a true assassin, I don't mind this. This is just a pretty well-rounded comp as long as they get a good magical damage dealer.
And Bakasura hovered on the other side. That's something we've seen from Oath a fair deal in the past. Actually has a decent matchup, and the Horus in particular can restrict 50% of his kit. Amaterasu as well, very reliant on that dash. Chernobog needs his dash to get into the walls and be safe. But instead, it's a last-second pivot to the Susano. Essentially a pick and a ban in one. You're taking away from the Leviathans and still grabbing yourself a very high priority pick. It's a little bit of AoE CC, which is what I've always said is one of the weaknesses of Jormungandr, is his inability to be that dedicated initiator. When I see these other soul laners, these standard warriors, they'll start the fight for you. Yorm can go in with a knockup, but outside of that, doesn't really have that much lockdown. Maybe Susano can right that ship a bit.
I mean, like you said, it does help their dive a lot. They now have CC in their dive. It's not like they were lacking damage. Yorm is a damage dealer, essentially, in solo lane. That's just a little bit safer. So Yorm, Susano, provides a lot of dive, a lot of damage, a lot of CC now, and it gives them an opportunity to kill the enemy mid, where I don't think they necessarily had it last game. Yorm diving, like I said, damage, no CC. Is Thana giving any CC? Not really. He just wants to execute. So I like this little shift up from Oath. I think the Susano helps their dive a little bit more, and it makes the Levi's have a lot less picks that they can actually play, because there's just so much just CC and disruption on this dive.
Well, you're a little bit early on it in the first death, but you finally caught up to it. Mercury is banned out by the Eldritch Hounds, Bakasura as well. Leviathan's eyes towards Ganesh and Merlin taken off the table, so Benny will have to go a little bit deeper into his own god pool as Terra for Neilma as the lock-in. Strong counter initiation. Maybe that's the idea of it. You don't want to deal with Horus and Amaterasu running you down with a presumed jungle lock-in. Presumed. Hoyi hover. Just got to be messing around a bit, surely.
Bog jungle.
You think
I said
so?
there was a chance.
You think so, really?
I would say no, but they're hovering it. Hebo.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So double hunter Hebo is what they opt for instead, I'd assume.
It's got to be, right? If the Hoyi gets locked in. Hebo, massive
Yep.
damage output, exactly what you had called for. And then Hoyi should be the duo lane, or do you want him in mid?
I want to see Hu Yi in duo. Is there any god that can fight on her in these 1v1s like Hu Yi? There is very few, if any, that wants to fight like Hu Yi. This Levi's comp is just play around side lanes. Let the Chernobog farm. He'll ult to the lane he needs to go to. Hebo can rotate with his carpet, movement speed buff, and he'll just take over all over the map. The Levi's comp has now shifted from last game, where it's this really strong 5v5 comp. Now it's this comp that wants to get involved in mid-game. They want to play around those side lanes. They want to be pushing the tier 1 outside towers, even going for some tier 2 towers. And then they have the global presence and the global pressure from Horus to eventually start grouping, and eventually even splitting the map more, or grouping themselves around the map more and around objectives.
So the Leviathans playing through the side lanes in individual matchups. What do you think of this Eldritch Hounds draft now that we've got eyes on all five? Is it a team fight draft? Are we playing for the early? Is it objective? What are they aiming for?
It's got to be a team fight draft. When you're playing Raw Terra, Raw really wants to play around these quick kind of fights, back up heal. Terra wants to have these all-in, protect her backline type of fights, and I think it lends this Hounds to actually win a portion of the game. I think their late game team fights is actually going to be really strong to fight into, and it's going to be hard for the Levi's to actually dive this backline. Terra's a really good peeler into them.
Are you not worried at all about maybe Ra's survivability against all this dive the Leviathans have got, though? I mean, Hebo's very fast. Chernobog, as you said earlier, can just jump into that shadow, and that's ignoring Horus and Amaterasu running you down. Do you think there's enough peel on the side of the Eldritch Hounds to keep that Ra alive?
Well, I think it's more, if they do dive in, we have to kill them faster than we die. And I think they have that. Yorm, Susano, I mean, even Terra as a support has really good damage. And then you look at on her Ra's, their two main backliners. That is a lot of damage that you have to dive into. If Hebo's not careful, if he blinks in, he might just get one shot faster than he can one shot.
Yeah, that's always a concern with Hebo. It's the Atlantis Leviathans, the Eldritch Hounds as we move in to a Game 2 situation. The Atlantis Leviathans went out in Game 1 convincingly. Very quick match there, only 2 deaths. The Eldritch Hounds now trying to right the ship. If you gotta give it to me straight, Bobby, give it to me real blanket statement, who you got winning this one?
I think the Hounds will even this up. It's just such an easier comp to run.
You think so? Just so simple from the Eldritch Hounds. I'm not so certain, though. I love their initiation. I love their counter initiation. They've got great follow-up from range. That Searing Pain, of course, going to be really good in situations like Jormungandr going in with that knock-up or Terra connecting with that stun from a range. But I don't know, Bobby. I'm not one to argue with my analysts. You know, I've never done that before. But I just really do. You convinced me when you're singing the praise of the Leviathans compositions earlier. You convinced me on them a little bit. Are you sure? You're going Hounds all the way.
Okay, they did play really good Smite last game. It's just a different style of comp, and it's a little worrisome if they can run this different style just as well as they ran the last style. If they can, this might be a 3-0. If they can't, I mean, they're going to have to go kind of more to the team fight a little bit more.
Okay, fair enough. So the Leviathans, maybe a little bit less focused on teamfight as they were previously. The Eldritch Hounds, maybe a little bit more so. I've got maybe a timer on it. What do you think? What's the time frame on this Eldritch Hounds draft? Is it we're starting off early? Do we want to group up around these objectives early on? Or is it more so like, let's get to that 15-20, then start to play our game?
Last game I said that the Levi's had kind of everything that was really good. I think this Hounds have kind of the same thing. They can play early, mid, late. It's just whenever they want to, and I think that's really good with their comp, so.
Well, you all have heard it from the desk. Now, let's hear it from the casters as we jump right into the game.
Thanks so much, Mifflin and Bobby. Again, as we jump in to Game 2 here, Leviathans lead the Hounds 1-0. It's going to be Gore, it's going to be Trelly, and of course, it's going to be Duck giving us the views in. And Trelly, I'm going to carry on a conversation like adjacent to what the desk had been talking about, which was, you know, speed of the game, things like that. But I'm going to bring it into you maybe a little more hyper-pointed, which is, do you think with these two comps that it takes another 11 minutes to get to First Blood this time?
Well, I didn't think that in game number 1 we were going to have to wait till 11 minutes. I see more.
So now you got to hedge your bets.
Yeah, I see more of a passive start here. Adapting and Shinto, in my mind, don't have much engage. What they have is the counter engage, right? If Oath blinks in, there could be a knockup from Adapting, maybe a root in from Shinto, things like that. But they don't really have the ability to step forward and create that fight. Benny Q on this Raw is going to be playing pretty safe as well. Just stay back, try to, you know, avoid fighting as much as possible, heal up, that sort of thing. So I don't think, I hope we don't wait till 11, but it seems like we're gearing up for a bit of a passive start. Probably just traditional wave clear. Maybe Oath looks for a blink trying to pull a beads onto Adapting, but if Benny Q can't hit the Celestial Beam, which is very difficult to hit early on, by the way, it's usually max range. You're not able to get within melee range of a Hebo at level 2 without blink. So if that doesn't happen, then yeah, probably not going to be too much bloodshed.
I'm excited to watch. Honestly, so much here because it just has lined up in a way that has made things interesting. I mean, Coast playing the On Her this time around versus Panda Cat on Ho Yi, which I think is always going to be fun. Ho Yi's, you know, really good at boxing. There's always conversations, it feels like, Trelly, when Ho Yi gets drawn into a meta, because, and it's almost always around his passive, right? Because it's like, okay, is it a crit meta? Can it work out for Ho Yi? Even beyond the passive, though, right? If we ignore that part of the kit, he's just got a fun kit to watch and a fun one, in my opinion, to play as well. But it's going to be great for these boxing matches, but with the On Her.
Ronnie forgot his bow,
and he went back.
And he backed and started cooking. You could see he was laughing. My man had to go all the way back to base. Almost, he's going to miss a little bit of farm for it, but at least he started cooking. Yeah, I agree. I think that Ho Yi can bring some fine dynamics. His early clear is usually the issue. Sure, he's got decent buff clear, but the wave clear can be a bit of an issue, and because of that, you got to look for Ho Yi to sit back for a while. Has decent 1v1 for sure. Up against something like On Her, it really is a battle of who's hitting these stuns consistently and who's getting more value out of their ultimates. But because of that, like I said, not going to be stepping up. Panda Cat cannot clear a wave, and if Oath's not in mid lane, he's probably nearby. Good luck to just walk away.
And that's something I'm expecting to see a lot more. Ducky under a little bit of pressure from Adapting and Fine OK. Adapting on this Hebo. And that's the thing that was fun about this draft, right? You get two warriors, right? The Amaterasu and Horus, although it's easy to forget Horus is a warrior. He has that warrior scaling early on, so maybe a little bit of pressure that he can apply. The Amaterasu as well, going to be great in the late game. We've seen what a lot of these players, Fine OK on that list, have been able to do with the Ama presence in the backline. But Adapting onto Hebo and Shinto, very importantly onto Chernobog, who's been banned up to this point. So two, I think, facets of the game that we just haven't gotten to see a lot lately. One of those being Global Ultimate, and the other one just having a lot of damage.
Gonna have to play passive though. I mean, the Horus can bring a little bit, but Horus does not inherently bring that lane pressure. Yeah, he's got CC. Yeah, he's got control, but doesn't clear the way that effectively just yet. And of course, throw that with a Hoi, you're gonna be under tower for quite some time. Coast is really enjoying stepping forward. I'm thinking he may be a little bit too far forward though. Essentially gets well underneath half of HP, just trying to get those bastions. Neoma is positioning for a possible invade. It's not going to be easy, especially with your on her that weak. And Oath actually gets knocked him under tower. Wow. Goes in for the invade, is able to grab it. So the Hounds are definitely looking for that aggression. They're stepping forward. But they're getting very low doing so.
Staying aggressive. Speaking of which, it's Wrong U versus Neil for the purple. Neil wins that one out. Oath, as you mentioned, took a tower shot earlier. Now it's going to be Shinto joining the fray. Has the damage. One more auto, and 3 minutes in, first blood goes to the Leviathans. But Trelly, they're not done just yet. Ducky in a precarious position. Blue buff invade successful on right. They're going to let Ducky lie. Walk away with their 1 kill. The buff stolen, and feeling pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the benefit of this pick, right? We've seen, I mean, pretty much every set up until this one, Chernobog has been banned. Received some buffs. Is a little bit more lethal, but something that he's always had and has not changed is the ability at level 5 to join a team fight immediately. And with Oath being level 4, didn't have Blink, didn't have any more dashes. It's as easy as Shinto clicking on him, flying in, and making sure to hit that root. That's an easy first blood for the mid laner, who was notably a big issue in game number 1 on the Raijin. Send Shinto over to a first blood when he's got a magical jungler, by the way. So Hebo's going to provide that burst. Now you just got double ADC Hebo, and they're ahead. Leviathans have a great start.
And I know that was something, Inbound had mentioned towards the end of the desk, was just, if they can play the comp right, we might see a 3-0 just because of the way things are. But it's a different enough comp. I couldn't just give them the benefit of the doubt from it. And I think that just 1 kill, it's only actually 100 gold really separating them. So the Leviathans aren't super far ahead just yet. Still plenty of room for things to shift and shake. But it is dangerous territory if this team is able to run and continue at the pace that they were last time around. I'm excited for something that's on the other side, though. We talked a little bit about Coast on the on-her. I love watching Bunny play Raw. I think maybe more than any other Raw. I'm trying to think of it. Tings is maybe the only guy who pulls him out every now and then. Otherwise, Benny just seems to hit those snipes something different in late game.
Yeah, I agree. Even off of good setup, off of no setup, NEQ is sending out those snipes consistently, and it is a joy to watch. NEQ's playing this Raw pick even when it's not meta, and for a while it hasn't been, but he still likes to look towards it. And I think Raw is just great early game as well. The heal, make sure that your solo laner doesn't get poked out when you do the speed and the blue buff start, when you pull that over to your back harpies. And then after that, you should just have phenomenal pressure in lane. You see Adapting never really wanted to get close, didn't want to look for a fight because of that heal. Oh man, Oath once again dashes forward, and here comes Shinto, luckily able to blink out before any combat comes through. Ducky also forced into that ultimate. They gotta watch out for these invades, man. Every time Oath goes for that blue buff, Shinto is looking to try and fly in, but because Shinto flies over right, NEQ able to steal away the green buff. I guess that's worth it in the end, right? You get 2 ultimates down. Sure, Oath had to blink, but you end up invading the green, trade that for your blue buff. The Hounds are okay with that one.
Keeps things, like you said, relatively even, although Ducky might not be feeling that as much. Crushing Wave, not a lot of damage. They need one more auto under the tower. Wrong U is going to be the one who has to find it. But Adapting, drops ult alongside Fine OK, puts the solo laner in the dirt. Not to see what response the Hounds have. Charlie, it's 6.5 minutes into the game. There's not too much they can do. They're putting pressure on Shinto in mid. Well, that's Chernobog's R1 to do. Just dashes into the wall and avoids all the damage.
Yep, hides from the stun. It's going to be just fine. 2-0 start for the Leviathans. The Hounds were farming the map really well, all besides really Oath. It's looking like they had a bit of a lead. But now it seems like enough with the kills, enough with the invades. Ducky unfortunately hasn't gotten a blue buff in a bit. And because Shinto's been flying away, NEQ was able to steal away a bit of farm, but continuously, this Chernobog is an ever-growing threat on the map. It seems like just besides Panicat, who has to play very defensively up against an Honor, has to play very defensively up against Coast. Oh, like I said, the Ricochet. You see, it just takes a while before it starts one-shotting archers. Like, you can find a double bounce, sure, but if you're just going for a single bounce on the wave, you have to auto so much just to make sure you get your Dev Gauntlet stacks. Those are pretty crucial to trying to box up against it on her. Ultimate gets dropped, Coast forced to beads, but Panda Cat also beads there?
Yeah, I think trying to avoid the root from Neil, maybe thought you could do more, but I don't know if there's much more to it than that, really. Maybe they thought they could continue that pace. Now they're trying to hold on as the shield buff spawns in. Neil, Coast, and soon to be Oath and Binnyq going to be rotating in from the Hounds. They've got adapting over here alongside Wrong U to help out Panda. Set up around the shield buff, but Panda Cat doesn't seem to want to catch this anymore. Goes ahead, falls back. Did he steal that away? Nobody's picking it up on the Hounds, so he did manage to at least get something done, ruin their aspirations. Keep the Hounds just a shy behind.
Yeah, but immediately dive bombed away because he saw Benny Q. He's like, I'm kind of in snipe range. Now he's been able to sustain a bit thanks to Wrong U, but definitely fearful. Beautiful bounce. Do you jump in? Yes, but Coach just tried to turn this.
Yeah, goes for the ult. Has a lot of damage here, and you're fighting in the minions. Jump is going to be good. Knockback better, and Coast finds the kill onto Panda. Does trade his life out for it. Now with the rotation from adapting the rotation from Shinto. They're going to make sure that Neil goes down. A 1-for-2 trade, but a beautiful play by Coast.
Yeah, there's no justice. Unfortunate that you're even taking that fight because, yeah, Panda Cat hits a massive bounce, decides to leap in. But Coast says, hey, I've got Desert Fury, and we're going to use the Terra ultimate to just transform this terrible fight into what seems pretty good. They get the kill, yes, but Shinto flies in and says, hey, I could have done this at any moment, by the way. You guys jumping in when there's a Chernobog ult on the map is going to be scary. 2-0-1, level 11, going into the fail knot, and that's when this Chernobog really heats up. You get the extra cooldown, yeah, but you get that mark, you get the extra crit. Almost every time you're going to be ulting in, popping your abilities, and just getting the benefit of that fail knot. It can be disastrous.
Oh, poor Coast.
Coast, yeah, should be getting chain stunned here, waiting for Wrong U. There it is, and the kill goes to adapting.
Charlie, I'm going to come out and say it. I don't know if he needed both of those ults to kill him. I think he might have been dead.
Yep.
But sometimes the point is more important than the cooldowns. The Leviathans have made their point. 5-1 lead. We haven't even hit 10 minutes just yet. Thought that maybe we'd see some pressure on the gold Fury. You've got so many people over here. You're still fighting for the 2,000 gold. And realistically, experience isn't actually that crazy apart. Right, a level lead and a lot of the roles, but not as a full level for a majority of them just yet. So the Hounds keeping the farm up as much as they can. Realistically, and you know, we'll have to keep our eyes on it, and it's Oath more than anybody. Because last game you had mentioned it, less damage than the Maui, which I'll tell you is a true accomplishment. Maui doesn't hit very hard. And he was on the Thanatos. This time around on the Susanoo, got to see a little bit more from the jungler on the Hounds. Feels like the team otherwise is hitting, right? I mean, Coast made some beautiful play. You've got Binnyq on a pick that has become somewhat synonymous with his name. So you got to get Oath in the action, and he's got to start dictating some plays the same way we've seen out of adapting.
And I've been looking at Final K's stacks. Not on his Gauntlet of Thieves. That obviously is going to go slowly here, but on his Gooseberry, he's finally able to finish and get the upgrade. His clear has been so slow. Ducky, forced into the World Serpent, will ult away because he's not been fighting much. This Amaterasu can get lane pressure at times, but more often than not, you're playing defensively, especially when you're going to go this new Thieves tech, which I guess isn't really new. It's come in and out of the meta every once in a while, but it's just a very highly statted item. When you're with your jungler, you're going to be looking good, and Wrong U wants to try and get aggressive here, but there's 4 Hounds at this purple buff spawn. All the while, Final K just trying to grab the tier 1 tower. Will there be any sort of Gold Fury pull? Doesn't seem like it. The Hounds just grouped up, thought they had the purple buff timer down. They didn't, and they decided to retreat.
Well, Beacon's going to be spawning relatively shortly. And that could cause maybe an interesting point of contention. I don't know. We haven't seen much from the Hounds in both games so far. Grouping up. And so I'm kind of left wondering and questioning what this Beacon fight's going to look like from them. Feels like it could be a great opportunity for some raw play and for the Terra to really get active and cause some trouble for him. And it is going to be Neil Ma who steps onto the Beacon first. Wrong U is going to match that. But it is 2v1. So it might be slow, but it's still in favor of the Hounds. Coast is rotated in. Panda Cat's coming in behind him. looks like the Leviathans aren't going to let this drop for nothing. PandaCat goes for a ricochet shot. Not able to find too much, and in the meantime, the Hounds just capture the beacon. So, Jelly, all that pomp and circumstance for it to just fizzle out.
Yeah, wrong. You try to stall. PandaCat shows up, drops the ultimate. Unfortunately, too little, too late. And I think it was really the fact that Adapting gets poked out. Didn't even want to stand in that circle once Wrong You left. That's the end of that. Not to be the biggest deal. There's still a massive XP lead that you have to talk about. Oath just ticks over to level 12. Was level 10 just a second to go up to Adapting, who I'm assuming is close to 4. PandaCat actually does beats the leap there. We're going to see a little bit of a 1v1, but I don't imagine anything comes from this unless Wrong You does want to dive this tower, which he's attempting.
He goes in. Coast replies with his own ult. Adapting's over here. It looks like it's just going to be a shield buff for the Leviathans. I'm surprised. I mean, I feel like PandaCat's been very liberal with his beats. You know, in moments where it's just, I'm going to drop this, and if I can keep fighting you, I'm going to keep fighting you, and if not, oh well. My beads are down for 160. And he hasn't really had any punishing plays in response to that, right? I mean, 160 seconds. It's a long time to wait for him to come back. Oath hasn't gone over there once to try and bully it.
Oath hasn't bullied anyone all set, if we're honest. I mean, he got one execute on the final K last set, or last game rather, and that was pretty much it. So far, has been playing very passive on Susano. 0-1-0. Attempted invades over on right. That's been pretty much it. Finally, the Leviathans go in for a Fury. They drop the ultimate. There's no one nearby. This should be a free Fury at the very least. Pyromancer could be looked at as well. The other towns, I assume, know this is happening. That whole yield is not quiet. And there was, in fact.
Neil.
Yeah. Coast was nearby.
Neil warded it too, so they had the vision. It was just, can you get something done? Now the Hounds finally picking a fight, but the fight is coming to them instead. Adapting finds the kill on the Neil. Shinto was the bait. Oath goes in and Oath goes down. What a great snipe from Benny Q, but it is still a 2-for-1 trade, and it's going to turn to 3. Benny getting chased. Adapting uses the ult, hits the tower, but he just needed the close gap. One fade away. Otto's all he needs, and it is 3-for-1. Shinto goes down, but the team finds so much in response.
Looks like they're heading for the Pyromancer as well. Beautiful fight, and they get a lot done. If Benny Q doesn't hit that snipe, absolutely disastrous, right? If they're not able to find one kill there, the Hounds are in a terrible, terrible spot. Still not great, right? You don't want to lose 3 and drop the Pyromancer, but you're able to kill Shinto, who was a huge threat, and try and slow down some of the farm that he's been able to grab. All the while, Coast was able to split push and grab a tier 1 tower, so not all negatives. It's just you're starting to get some questions here. Oath dives very low to try and get that kill, was not able to find it. Still level 13 on the Susano. You look towards the 4-0 Hebo. Adapting is a growing problem. Needs to be shut down as soon as possible, because if you just give a Hebo a fast track to late game, your carries are going to have some issues, especially Raw with no relics available. Beads and Egg is down. Benny Q's almost never going to survive that engage, especially if someone like Final K is there to dive with you. All the while, though, Coast, remember, he got this tier 1 tower. That means he doesn't have that bastion of safety anymore. He's not going to be able to farm efficiently because look at PandaCat. He's just starving the wave at tier 2. He doesn't have to leave. Coast has to look elsewhere for farm now.
Keeps things exactly where he wants them. And that's in control. And speaking of in control, stop me if you've heard this one before. 8-2 in favor of the Leviathan. 16 minutes in, you just saw it. 4,000 gold, Trelly. Which, you know, there are times in the game where we'll say 2,000 gold. Oh, at 20 minutes, that's not a huge deal. 4,000 is usually a big deal, even in the late, considering what it brings for you. Adapting, hitting that late game Hebo stride. You had mentioned the fail not, but Shinto has it and is probably feeling more than confident. Now it's just where they find their pressure and where they're going to continue putting it. As they've actually swapped, I like this. PandaCat coming over towards mid. Shinto is the one in left, using that global ult for rotations. Beacon, it's going to be coming in soon. So the Hounds start the last fight. Can they feel confident, even though it went wrong, trying to start a fight around a Beacon, or maybe even defend a Fire Giant, or maybe not just defend, start one up themselves? They walk over to the FG pit. Wrong You spots it out. Fine, okay. Is going to loop around the back, but they've got the support locked down, and they've got the kill onto the horse. Now, Fire Giant pit is where the Hounds have positioned themselves. Fine, okay's in the neighborhood. Doesn't seem like they're going to do much more than that. Just get the kill. Now, I guess the question is, 5v4, do you step up to the Beacon?
Well, the Hounds are stepping up. Leviathans have ward coverage, but yeah, I don't think they walk up for this one. Doesn't seem even worth it at this point. Wrong you, if he had one member of the team even close by, probably doesn't die there, but fine, okay. Was not close enough to dash to, so you end up losing your support for a possible Fire Giant attempt. And I don't doubt it. If the Hounds saw there was no vision and there was no one nearby, I'm thinking they would have went for a Fire Giant attempt there just to try and slow the pace of this game. It ended up working out. You get a kill and a tier 1, but Final K's going in.
Looking for something. Doesn't find anybody with the stun. He's going to be isolated. Shinto uses his ult to close the gap and get in there, get some damage down. Crits ring true on the Benihue, but not able to find the kill just yet. Instead, the team's kind of turned their attention. Oath isolated off to the right. Now, just looping around the red buff on the right-hand side of the jungle. Seems like he'll be fine and safe, so a little bit of poke from the Leviathans. And Charlie, if it's not going to amount in kills, they'll find something else. They turn their eyes to the Primal Fury.
Yeah, but once again, look towards those Hounds. They're getting right towards that Fire Giant. Final K is nearby, even with an immediate pull. Is not going to be easy. Final K's got the ward coverage. Benny Q has the snipes, but can adapt and get in range, or do they even want a 50-50 yet? No. The Eldritch Hounds are going to retreat, try and sneak the Fire Giant twice. The Levi's are going to be onto that one. So all the while, FG does not go down, and the Leviathans put themselves in a favorable position. Maybe even a tier 1 tower over on left. But to answer your question, I don't think the Eldritch Hounds are afraid to initiate. I just don't think they want to take even fights, right? If it's a 5v5, if it's a 3v3, if it's a 2v2, that can be a bit sketchy. But if they catch someone out, if they say, hey, maybe we can 4v2, maybe we can set up an ambush in the jungle, those side of plays can definitely still happen. But my guess is Oath is going to take over the left lane, split push away, try and hit like level 20, and then get more involved. It's just early Fire Giant. You don't really need that face presence, and Oath needs far more than anything.
Well, it is a good look at what we can maybe expect from the Hounds. Some growing pains, right? Losing Quig, putting in Neil Ma. Quig over to the Kings. We got to see some of that yesterday. But Neil Ma, a veteran support, right? Multi-world champion. So it's just a question of how well they start to mesh together and what's changed for them, I guess, really on the mind. As they still, I mean, at this point, let's call it 1.5 games through, right, until this one finishes. 8-3, the farm game, and like you said, maybe the engage game needs some work on where they're going to be looking for it. We're at 20 minutes. Last time around, Fire Giant was a pretty big focus for both of these teams, and the Hounds have spent a lot of time trying to go to the pit. Just haven't been able to find exactly what they're looking for. Ward coverage on the right side of the map shifted from blue to red. So the Leviathans maybe going to need a little more if they want to try and catch out another one of those plays. But we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, and something that I think has changed. The Fire Giant pit itself, right? All this geometry, the walls that are nearby, much more open pit, bigger for fights, but it's also harder to ward every nook and cranny that you need to cover. And that means that you can pretty easily and usually simply get some coverage. So there's no way this team's truly starting up the Fire Giant. Yeah, they're going to drop that. As they stare each other down. Shelly, you know, we're used to seeing this, but usually it's about 20 minutes from now that the teams are doing it.
Well, they've got all the freedom in the world. They know no one is near Shinto, and because of that, they're going to get a tier 2 tower the longer they stay here. The Eldritch Hounds have to stay within range. Benny Q needs to be within snipe range, and because of that, might open himself up to some problems, or maybe Wrong U's in trouble.
Yeah, goes in, tries to get the engage, has to fall back, heals up enough, and now the damage is there. You've got Shinto who comes in, turns it into a 5v4, and the lead forward from PandaCat. The two hunters do their damage and do their diligence. Kill off Neil Ma in the process. Ducky makes it into the ult, and that should be the disengage. Beats Aegis down for Panda, Beads down for Shinto.
Benny's coming.
They're going to go ahead and start up the Fire Giant one more time. You mentioned it, Benny. Back.
No snipe.
No snipe. So what does he do?
Nothing.
Yeah, turns around and flies away. Fire Giant to the Leviathans. A beautiful fight, beautiful play across the map. Plus that tier 2 they just got in left. Gives them a much more massive lead, approaching 10,000 gold. 9-3 read the kills.
I mean, yeah, at that point, you have two options as the Eldritch Hounds. You send 2 over to Shinto, and you try and kill him while he's grabbing that tier 2 tower, or you fight immediately on Fire Giant and recognize that Shinto's going to fly in, pop that fail not passive, and absolutely create your backline. Unfortunately for the Eldritch Hounds, neither option seemed good, and they end up doing neither. They just sort of soft defense on the left, lose the tier 2 tower anyways, and then Shinto still gets a massive ult in because Wrong Yu and Final K created that space for him. They dive the backline, they force Relics out of Benny Q, he snipes before like really able to find anything impactful. Now that the fight's over, Ducky has World Serpent, definitely gonna have to use it here. Too fearful of the Kittens procs there from Panda Cat, and rightfully so. A lot of HP built for Ducky so far. But because of that, now they have to back up. I mean, it's not easy for them to step forward and defend anything. We've seen what happens when Adapting's able to get to the back line. And he has his upgraded starter. He's got a blink. I mean, Final K is essentially by himself and can step forward and be a threat because Shinto could follow him at any given moment.
I mean, at this point, you've had free presence. I mean, free reign on the map. We were talking about it earlier, and we've kept coming back to it because it feels like the Hounds are having Smite played at them right now. A lot of the decision-making's been in the favor of the Leviathans. They've been forcing the Hounds to play their game. And that's not going to change here. They knock down the tier 2 in mid, and pings immediately over towards actually Oath in the jungle. Maybe they put some pressure on right. You've already got Shinto pushing it up. Pyromancer's available. The world of Smite just wide open to the Leviathans. They get to choose whatever they please at this point. Trelly, we're talking full builds. I mean, Shinto's gotten rid of the recipe already, has upgraded his starter and a new tier 3. So the power spikes are just so overwhelmingly in favor of the order that we have to start looking at it. Titan's going to be spawning on right. And defense is the only thing I think on the minds of the Hounds at this point. You couldn't step up to the tier 2s. Those are all gone. All you've got left now are your Phoenixes. Can they hold back the Leviathans if they want to go under a bird?
I mean, my question is, are they even going to get involved, right? I mean, think about last game. We talked about how Oath was bottom of the damage charts, just barely underneath Neil. It's essentially mirrored. Gore looks the exact same. Oath
Neil gets like 2 autos and he's over.
Exactly. You could tell Oath had one mindset. He was level 16, looked at Adapting, who was 19, and said, I am not fighting. I need to hit level 20. Level 20 is here. The upgraded starter, probably not far off either. I gotta see something big from Oath. I mean, I was trying to pitch it up last time that if he got a big execute, he could have turned the Phoenix Siege around. That same does apply. If he gets a big Typhoon, they could turn this fight around. But is he going to be able to even go in? Because Shinto's been pushing left. There's no one near him. He doesn't know that yet, so he's playing a little bit safely. But any moment he could fly in, and Coast is recognizing that as well. Jumps away perfectly. But Final K has so much movement speed, he's going to jump in. And here comes Oath, actually finally getting involved.
Yeah, has some damage. Use the Typhoon. Is going to end up losing his carry, but looking for the kill on Final K. But here comes Adapting. And here comes their savior. Shinto finds himself 2, and nothing you can do about it. 40 seconds in the penalty box for Coast and Oath. Titan on the right side, Phoenix. You've got Shinto here in mid, knocking down the mid Phoenix. And now Trelly, just for good measure, might as well go for left. It's a 5v3.
They're going for it.
Titan room. They're going to go ahead and use ult to get in there. The damage should be good. What can the Hounds do in response? Is it going to be enough if they try? And the answer is just no. 2-0 lead now for the Leviathans as they close out that game.
I mean, Gore, it was a different game, right? This is game number 2. It was not the exact same as game number 1, but the analysis is the same. No sense of urgency. The Eldritch Hounds, in my mind, didn't try to stem any bleeding. They didn't make any risky plays to try and catch back up. They didn't try and stop any of the aggression from the Leviathans. I'm not going to say they rolled over, but they did the closest thing to that.
Look, they picked up Neil. They're just trying to put the Neil Ma passive to test as early as possible. I mean, down 2-0, like you said, you know, game 1, we didn't see a lot of the jungle. We didn't really, I mean, urgency is the right word. I didn't see virtually any. In this game, we got to see some. They go for the sneak on the Fire Giant. That didn't work. Then they go for another sneak on the Fire Giant. That didn't work. And then it fizzled out from there, right? And so it is whether, you know, you want to joke and say Neil Ma passive, they're just looking for the reverse sweep to prove themselves, or if you want to say they just need to figure something out, it really is kind of where they're at right now. And I think that's what everybody, especially Hounds fans at home, are waiting for. We'll have to see whether or not they can give us the update for them, as it's now 2-0 for the Leviathans. We'll see if the Hounds can bounce back, because they need to right after this.
She got cheats, she got smile, she got business on the side. She got treats for them guys when a baby out of town. Got sheets, got sides, funny business on her mind. She's so pleased with her life, mind her business out my mind. Have a treetop, swinging my visa, put up a cool. With the party, sipping her coffee, I pick up. With a clear eye, she too weird, I like a tattoo. Then it funny, but I wonder, hey, how many times can you say no winning and true? How many times, baby? How low can you go to get back in your one baby boo? How low can you go, baby? I wanted some land, I wanted some nigga move. But you on the train and I want this going choo-choo. She got cheats, she got smile, she got business on the side. She got treats for them guys when a baby out of town. Got sheets, got sides, funny business on her mind. She's so pleased with her life, mind her business out my mind. It's a tea time, leaning like in pizza. Put them knees down, squeeze it like a breeze on. Got the teeth done, had to fill the crease up. Saw the sneakers by the door and realized it was time to go. Weighted blankets couldn't come for me. I'll need more to ever catch a sea. I keep wondering what I didn't see. She a damn good thief. She got treats, she got smile, she got business on the side. She got treats for them guys when a baby out of town. Got sheets, got sides, funny business on her mind. She's so pleased with her life, mind her business on my mind. I get a chance to make amends. After the dance, I switch my lens to try and glance how it makes sense. I play pretend this is the end. I get a chance to make amends. After the dance, I switch my lens to try and make amends. She got cheats, she got smile, she got business on the side. She got treats for them guys when a baby out of town. Got cheats, got sides, funny business on her mind. She's so pleased with her life, money business on my mind.
Welcome back, Smite fans. Blink and you miss it. The Atlantis Leviathans grabbed their second win of the set, and the Eldritch Hounds grabbed their 5th kill of the set. So, you know, consolation prize where they lie. I'm joined again once more by Bobby. Bobby, 25 minutes on that game. Atlantis Leviathans, are they just that much better today? Is it still draft tip? Like, what's going on?
They might be back. That is some
We're
just
so back.
overall pretty clean Smite. Their macro's good. Their team fight's really good. Like, we've not seen many weaknesses from them. They've had just, I mean, some fights where it's 4 for 1 or 3 for 1, but, I mean, just overall, it's good picks, good bans, good comp into the enemy's comp, and good play. It's everything you need. Everything's kind of just falling together, and it does help that the Hounds are also just not playing too great through 2 games. I think they've been, you know, not grouping, this game specifically, not grouping too well. They kind of got picked apart. This Chernobog, you said it back there, he was all over the map. Every fight that happened, Chernobog's there, Chernobog's winning the fight. I mean, even with the sick 2v3 that Coast had, getting the kill on a Panda Cat, there's a double kill for Shinto to clean up.
Yeah, Shinto cleans it up, and if it's not him, it would have been Adapting, who does eventually grab that kill on a Neil. The Eldritch Hounds really struggling to find their footing in this one. The Leviathans clearly coming with some game plans and some compositions the Eldritch Hounds were not quite prepared for. Is it any one player in particular that you think really needs to step up here for the Hounds? Is it not a player? Is it all draft? Like, what's going on? If you're on the Hounds right now, let's say you're in Neil Ma's position, what are you saying to the team?
Well, first off, I don't think a game or 2 games like this that happen this kind of blowout-esque, I don't think it's on one player. I think across the board, I think a lot of the team is playing, just not too great. But I do think we have to call out Oath and what Oath has done these first 2 games. Adapting is just doing everything better than Oath. He's all over the map. He's farming just as good. I think we do need to see a lot more from this Hounds jungler for the Hounds to have a chance in this 3rd game.
Fair enough. Oath across the last 2 games putting up a roughly 11,000 damage. A little bit less than ideal than you'd want from your hyper carry jungles. Vapor's Coast, though, I think has had a pretty good set so far. Ducky, for the most part, has been able to hold his own. Unfortunately, just holding your own and doing pretty good, not enough to take out this revitalized version of the Atlantis Leviathans. And remember what Panda Cat said at the top of the day. Came in, saw that the Leviathans were 16, and then said, that is just not enough, fellas. That's not going to work for me. And since then, clearly, something's changed. Maybe it's in the water. Maybe it's in the communications. The Atlantis Leviathans looking real good there. 4-0-6 for Adapting. 5-1-3 for Shinto. I don't want to see any more Chernobog. You know, I was a little bit on the fence. I know they didn't even banned out so much. I know he's in a really good spot, but I was thinking, is he really that high priority, right? Is he going to be like last patch or 3 patches ago Marty level? Like, where are we at? I know where we're at now. It's Chernobog meta. I'm kind of done with them.
He had 18,000 gold last game. Benny had 13,000. He
Yikes.
was up 5,000 gold in 25 minutes. Granted, I mean, you get to the objectives, you get Fire Giants, Gold Fears like that. Your gold lead is just going to kind of spiral out of control, but he's farming like a machine. He's all over the map. I agree. I hope we don't see Chernobog again for this weekend. Maybe after this week we get like some more practice games in, some more scrims, and there's something that kind of comes up that can maybe counter the bog or something like that. But for now, this weekend, let's just no more Chernobog.
Yeah, Chernobog needs to be taken away, and we'll jump into P's and B's very shortly and see whether or not that's going to be the case. I'm just not so sure, man. They land as Leviathans. I'm not sure where you stop them, right? You get him off the Raijin, he goes to the Chernobog. Are you going to ban out both? And if you do, what are you leaving available? The Eldritch Hounds have not shown to me that they're willing to play like these absolutely crazy picks. It feels like every time the Leviathans are getting like 3 picks, and you can almost completely talk about that for the entire Destiny. I'm like, wow, those 3 gods are just dominating this draft. And the Hounds just haven't had that response. This time, though, the Hounds in first pick might be able to find something.
Yeah, I like that they're at least switching up where they're picking. I think taking first side, there's a lot of strong gods right now. You control how the picks and bans are going to be going from first side. And, I mean, their first 3 picks, they didn't even have the Hebo. They counter-picked the Hebo in the second pick phase. I mean, it's a good throwaway ban. Just get rid of it. Take this first side. Raijin, Hebo, 2 good bans to get rid of. It seems like the Hounds just kind of want to get rid of a lot of these high prio picks and then just pick the one that's left over.
And so it will be Hebo taken out by the Hounds. I wonder, do you want to go ahead and create a world where Chernobog makes his way through once more? Is that something the Hounds have got their eyes set on? Atlantis Leviathans, though, would not like to have a taste of their own medicine, and second pick say, well, Raijin's real good right now, hyper aggressive, too much damage, essentially comes online at level 3, can get that CDR available very quickly. I think in an ideal world where everything lines up, you get your recipes stacked up, itemization's proper, and you get a little bit lucky on the mask, get that blue totem. on all of a sudden it's 40% CDR at level 5 and he's jumping on you repeatedly. Feels like it'd be really difficult to deal with. And so the Leviathans opt out of that immediately with a ban. Eldritch Hounds will take out the Yamoja themselves. That's not something I was expecting to see this high up. You think it's just, again, Eldritch Hounds fishing for some of those high prio picks?
I think they're just throwing it away because that's what the Levi's banned first side, and I think they like how the P's and B's laid out from the Levi's first pick, so you kind of want to follow them. Pele, Wukong are the other two bans that the Levi's had, so it's either you ban one of them and try to pick the other one, or you hopefully when you ban one, the other one bans it, or maybe you look for a trade, but that again is the Levi's to decide because they have that counter pick. Right now, it's a few strong characters up. Charon, we saw a couple Charon bans. Charon is available. And then we have the Charon, now gone, no longer available. We have Wukong, we have Pele, and I think there's one more that I'm missing.
Maybe Ganesh somewhere up there.
Ganesh is the other one. So we have three pretty strong gods up. Also, Levi's really like that Ares, and Ares is available now. So there's a lot of, good picks up. I think a lot of the top tiers obviously were taken out. Ares left through, Ares picked. With Ganesh up, that is a really risky 50-50 to take, because if Ares is behind, you just get Dharmic Pillars dropped on you, and you're kind of just dead. But if Ares is ahead, he's walking at Ganesh, he's ulting Ganesh, he's chaining Ganesh, and Ganesh is just going to be dying. I like the aggressiveness, though.
A volatile pick in that first slot, and the first time they've strayed away, the Hounds, that is, from the Jormungandr in first slot, has high potential to set the pace in the early game. And we'll be keeping our eyes on Neil. He's been playing this god for a very long time. Atlantis Leviathans now in second pick have their first response. I wonder, do you just go ahead and grab the Ganesh? I don't think you really need to. You can maybe wait until third pick overall. You don't have to go too far. If it goes to the next phase of bans, unlikely they'd be able to grab it for themselves. So what have you got eyes on here?
I like what you said there. You don't have to pick the Ganesh here. It's mostly if there's no other value picks up, and I think there is at least one up with Pele being available. And Ares is more of an aggressive god. He wants to get damage out. He doesn't peel all too well. What does Pele do really well? She dives very, very well. There's not going to be a ton of peel if there is a Pele locked in. They opt for the Yorm, which gives them that pick that the Hounds have been playing, so maybe there's you guys run it and you guys lose. We're taking it. We're going to win.
Oh, man, a little bit of toxicity maybe. I could do anything you can do, just a little bit better, says the Atlantis Leviathans. Or maybe the Hounds now are sitting on the other side and thinking, oh, okay, well, it's actually a pretty decent pick. We're not too far off base with the meta if the Leviathans are going for it themselves. That's a pick that we had talked about briefly for a moment. Martikaros locked in for the Atlantis Leviathans. How do you feel like he's fared in the most recent meta? In the season of celebration, feels like he's fallen off a little bit. Not many teams going towards him as high prio. Is he still that dominant pick? Is he still just get him to late game, he's going to one-shot everybody? Or has he kind of calmed down a little bit?
I think he's essentially the same character, just kind of slightly weaker at slightly weaker at every aspect.
Yes, sir.
I think he is a little bit worse early game, a little bit worse mid game, a little bit worse late game. But if we think about what Marty was beforehand, he was a monster at every single point of the game. He needed to come down a little bit. I still think he's a viable character. He's still very, very safe in mid lane. His it travels so far, and he can just kind of sit on tower line. And it also allows stuff like this, where adapting is one of the few players that actually lock in this Ao Kuang. So Marty mid, which I assume is what it's going to be, and Ao Kuang jungle is a very, very strong 2v2 where they just have a ton of damage.
Yeah, something a lot of the pros had talked about with Marty, even when he was incredibly dominant, was he's great in PvP, he's really good at dealing with waves, but struggles a little bit on those neutral objectives. Doesn't really have great auto attacks, struggles to knock down Fire Giant and Gold Fury. So Ao Kuang, I think, rights that ship as well. Ao Kuang very good with the Dragon Call, just shredding through all of those neutrals, and also a late game hyperscaler. So if the Atlantis Leviathans are allowed to take it to 30 minutes, group up, defense shred from Marty, Ao Kuang can knock him down from there. Leviathan's eyes towards the jungler in their second phase of ban. Susano and Thor taken off the table. Meanwhile, it's ADCs, magical and physical, from the Eldritch Hounds. Freya and On Her banned away. This is a very different composition from the Leviathans. It's been three very distinct playstyles from the Leviathans so far. This time around, almost feels a little bit more so like it's a protect the king composition to me. At least it was with that Capri hover. Ganesh can still do a good deal of that.
They kind of just lose a lot of CC also. The last game they had the Horus, instant CC. They have Hebo, instant CC. And then game one, I mean, Raijin is a really good CC character. They had Athena, Susano. This game they kind of have, they've gone away from it. Now they're opting for damage, 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 damage in every single role. When they're diving, when there's like that mid-game little neutral part of the play, it's just going to be a lot of poke and not just, like I said, damage. So this Levi's comp, again, their comps seem to be getting just slightly harder to use, but not a lot of these abilities are hard to hit. Ganesh, you have to drop this box around, and then they have to walk through it. Yorm has a lot of area control. Marty, a lot of area control. So they're kind of dipping into that damage aspect, and it's just really easy kind of damage to hit.
So the Atlantis Leviathans this time around, best defense, a good offense. They'd love to run it down and just connect their abilities. Eldritch Hounds now with their 5 locked in. It's a heavy CC composition. Ares and Athena, great initiators. Agni's got a little bit of it from range. CERN, of course, with large AoE CC. And that Bakasura hover that we've seen every game so far. Oath's been considering it. Is it time? Do I want to do it? Now here with his back against the wall, has finally decided to lock that one in. What do you think of the 5 stack of the Eldritch Hounds? What portion of the game are they aiming for? What's going on?
I was really curious if we were ever going to see a comp with Athena in solo and then this hyper carry auto attack jungler. Because now this Baka is going to be able to run rampant if the game goes late. And then they also have the backline damage. I think it opens up how the Hounds can play, and I think their comp just becomes a lot easier. We've also seen this Athena now as kind of the counter into Yorm if Yorm is picked. You just pick the Athena and you just kind of do what he does, albeit at a slightly worse clip. I think this Hounds comp is good, but again, it's going to take a lot from Oath, and Oath specifically, for the Hounds to be able to contest this game. Levi's have another really good comp, and what were they lacking? They were lacking CC. Artemis, probably one of the best CC hunters. She drops ult, and it just stuns all 5 characters. So I love this last pick by the Levi's.
Caledonian Boar also a phenomenal CC tool. Has great late game scaling, so matches up with the ideology of the rest of the Atlantis Leviathans draft. They've just been running strategy after strategy this time around. It's about that late game grouping, that ability to knock down those objectives. And the Hounds a little bit more so playing around that CC, their engagement through that. You say a lot of it rides on the Bakasura, a lot of it rides on Oath. Where are you sending Oath? Where are his opportunities? Which lane do you want him focusing? How is he going to make his best stamp on the game?
I need Oath visiting duo lane. He's put a good amount of pressure in solo lane, especially game 1, but not a ton. Adapting has been playing towards duo just a lot more than Oath. I need Oath to visit that duo lane, go for purple buffs, go for shield buffs. Take those 3v3s over there. Aokwang is not a dominant character early. Baka, once he gets that level 5, is so much stronger than Aokwang, as long as Aokwang doesn't just have a free execute. But I need Oath to get involved in duo, and I need it to be earlier than... I guess he didn't get involved at all. I just need him to get into that duo lane as soon as level 5 hits. That's what I need.
Just show up, do something in the duo lane. Go over there and die if you have to. Just make sure you're there. Well, preferably not, but...
Maybe kill.
Look, get a kill, and things are going to look a little bit better. It is so interesting, though, that the Atlantis Leviathans and Panicat leaves it all on the table with his initial interview. Said, "Yeah, we're gonna camp duo. I'm gonna have Kenneth come over, and it's just gonna work." And so far, Mans was just right. He just walked over and simply put Panicat ahead every single game. There hasn't been an equal response from Oath on the other side, and that's exactly what you're calling for. What about the Atlantis Leviathans? We know it's late game, but how late do we need to get?
I personally don't think it needs to be that late. I mean, Ganesh helps a lot in the mid game, that shred, that extra damage. Yorm is also a character that plays well early. I think it kind of relies on what type of build is Panda going to be doing. There's the 2 Artemis builds that are running the round. The auto attack crit build that Netroid was running yesterday, and then there was the full Bluestone
ability
cooldown
damage,
one.
yeah.
And I'm curious which one he goes for, because I think one of them allows for objective play a little bit more, and one of them allows for PvP a little bit more. And I think it kind of depends on what he's planning on doing.
Back against the wall, the Atlantis Leviathans up 2. You heard it from the desk. Let's get right into the cast.
That's right. It's going to be a 2-0 lead now for the Leviathans. And Trelly, the pressure is on here for the Eldritch Hounds. It's going to be Gore, Trelly, and of course Doug here for Game 3. And I think eyes turn towards Oath, not just on the desk, but maybe for everybody. We got to see him get active. We got to see what this Bakasura can do. We've had some signature picks from him. This is one that I think has to go well. A little more in favor of the Leviathans this time around, though. It was 71-29 split last time around. Now it's got a 66%er in their favor. And I'm wondering, what do you think has made people lose some of that confidence, or maybe gain confidence to the other side?
Well, once you see a team get O2'd and you get to see Oath just, unfortunately, not find any sort of success in the first 2 games, you definitely lose faith. The Bakasura is a pick that can also have a game like that, where you are just farming, you are not finding any aggression. If you get behind, you can't 1v1 anyone. And if you get off to a bad start like that, it could very easily be an 0-3, right? So I can see why chat is definitely leaning towards a possible 3-0 here for the Leviathans. However, if Oath gets off to a good start, if he hits level 5 first, if he catches adapting in the jungle with Blink and not beads, you know, there's a chance for a 1v1 there. His ganks, I think he's been looking a lot towards duo lane, and that might be the biggest change up, to be honest. Oath has been spending a lot of time with that shield buff, right? He's been heading to the left side of the map. And more often than not, his lane's either getting pressure so he can't gank, or there's just no kill potential at all, so he can't get involved. And because of that, we see do a little bit of an invade. Unfortunately, doesn't seem like the Hounds were able to get any steals, so everyone gets their buffs here. But at the very least, some good poke, and Coast hits level 2 first.
Was maybe waiting to see adapting. It's on the Ao Kuang, not necessarily known for its early damage. Although yesterday we saw Sot, while it maybe wasn't his best game of the 3, played it over in solo, built full tank, and still got some decent damage out. So
Yeah, he got first blooded.
yeah, he did, and you know what? And second blood,
Early.
if I remember correctly.
He died early, so you were right about that much. The early damage doesn't always have to be the best.
So we'll see what Adapting's able to do. Or, and more so, it's not even can Adapting do something. It's I'm waiting to see, can Oath find kill? And that is what I'm looking for.
I want to see him do 5k damage. That's the bar.
That's a, you know what? If you're not careful, you might trip over that bar.
I mean, first of all, I've never heard that phrase.
Really?
And I literally never, and I love it. Second of all, it isn't asking much, but it does. Unfortunately, it's a bar that he hasn't been able to reach so far this game because of, I mean, what I called a lack of urgency. It didn't seem like the Hounds really felt like they needed to get involved. They kept just losing fights, losing objectives, losing buffs, and sort of doing nothing about it. Adapting, looked for a gank, couldn't find it, and is now having to try and confirm this buff, doesn't get it. So even without sending their jungler over, the Hounds are able to grab shield buff, all the while Oath over on right grabs the cooldown buff, so that's a net win for the Eldritch Hounds starting off game number 3.
And I'm excited to see, someone who was actually late to that shield buff fight, but has been an interesting topic of conversation. Artemis, right? All of a sudden jumping in the last couple of days. And we saw 2 different builds yesterday. Primarily, we saw what it looks like Panda Cat is going for here, ability-based, right? The Bluestone into a Transcendence, and focusing on the fact that Tusky plus, suppress the insolent and an auto at that point maybe just kills you outright if you're squishy late game. And so I'm kind of curious for you, like, do you like this ability-based Artemis, at least ability-focused, I should say, Artemis, or do you prefer when you lean more into the autos?
Well, Gore, I'm not one to speak without testing. And yesterday, when I saw Cyclone build it, I was like, okay. I've been told Fine OK's also been going it on stream, so I was like, I'll test it out myself. So that's what I did. Last night, I played some one-shot Artemis, and I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not gonna say surprised. It's not shocking. It's not like building Transcendence on Hunters has been a far cry. It's happened before. Artemis has been in the game for quite some time. We've all went this build. It's just the changes that have come through with Bow. I think it works out quite well. I believe my suppress the insult was on a 4-second cooldown when I had full CDR, and it does a lot. The slow is annoying, the damage is annoying, the range is annoying, and you can do that every 4 seconds once you get full CDR. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this build. I think that it works out a ton when you have someone who's trying to get within melee range of you. Guess what? Oath is going to have to get within melee range if you want to try and dive Panda Cat. So I think it works out quite well. And once you look at the actual bouncing of Tusky near a jungle fight where everyone's grouped up and you're getting 4, sometimes 5 hits from that ultimate, it's a little bit ridiculous. And if you're new to Smite and you haven't seen Artemis in a while, because she hasn't been meta, Tusky is the name of the Caledonian boar.
Yeah.
I figured that we should probably say that, because who's been playing Artemis in the SPL?
Yeah, good point. I do think, and you know what? You played Artemis more recently than me, and we'll have to hold that thought for a moment as Ducky finally put under a little bit of pressure. Adapting's not going to find the damage necessary, though. I do think she has a voice line that calls him out as Tusky.
Like in her base skin? Well, I guess it was,
She did get a...
Yeah.
But I don't think that touched the voice lines. I don't know, actually. Did you hear any last night while you were testing it? I was getting stomped in Assault last night. That's what I was doing.
I used the Rave Girl skin, where she's got the bus, so it's not Tusky, it's a bus. Busky.
Busky. Well, we'll have to keep our eyes out. Tusky, appropriately named, because Caledonian Boar just doesn't sound cool for a pet. And so we'll see what Panda Cat has to offer. Honestly, we're talking a lot about him, and we would have to talk for probably another 10 minutes about him if we wanted to keep it relevant by the time he started doing the damage we expect. Transcendence will be a big spike there. It looks like Dev Gauntlet's on the other side. We also seen Kern. It feels like Hunters right now are maybe the most, like, Chernobog's up at the top, but we've seen more versatility. You had mentioned Rom, you know, seeing Chernobog, who has been in that kind of cycle, here locked in, and now Kernanos, who's locked in for Coast. Feels like we've got quite a, I guess,
wide
god pool.
variety?
Yeah, that's really what it is, a wide variety of Hunters that can be played over there.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be the case where there's some like top 1 or 2, and then if those are banned away, then everyone just sort of just trickles down to picking the old favorites, you know, old reliable. I haven't seen an Ishtar in a while, but that still is a pick that I imagine could come through just because if you can use the meta build decently well and you can build kins for tanks and crit for squishies, you're going to have a good time. And in this case, Artemis is definitely new into that mix because what she couldn't do was survive for a while, but with enough damage, these traps can be very annoying. And the influx of these melee gods that want to get close to actually dive the ADCs and now just can't because they're getting out-traded by the full burst Artemis. I do like what I've been seeing. And it's also nice when you're up against something like a Baka, because you can just run in a straight line and then drop a trap at your feet, and if Oath doesn't have CC immunity, he's stuck and the gank is over, right?
Yeah.
You do have a little bit of self-peel besides just having that Caledonian board to drop on yourself.
And you had mentioned it, Suppress the Insolent has a slow. And you've got a move speed stem.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of stuff. When you isolate it and say it like that, she sounds really good. But then when you remember the last, like, 5 years, maybe longer, there's been very few metas where Artemis has been a go-to pick.
Pretty sure it was like Golden Blade on Hunters.
Yeah.
Artemis is good.
And that was, I mean, her passive was crit back then, too. So that's
Yeah.
the only reason
Oh
it
yeah,
really
I forgot
worked
about
out.
that. I forgot that there used to be gods besides, like, you know, Jingwei and Naja that have, like, crit built into their kit, you know? Like, it used to be a passive on Hunbats.
Yeah.
I believe Wukong got passive crit as well. It's just been a wild ride.
Yeah, the fun days where you could go into a lane against an Artemis. And sometimes you'd have the exact same itemization, same level, you got the exact same experience. You'd just lose because she had 25% crit. You were just like, well, okay, I guess that's that. Of course, a far cry from that. Now, maybe she's finally back. Ducky is going to be forced back to base, this time the old-fashioned way. First blood, 3 games in a row. Leviathans pick that one up, diving the tier 1, but an appropriate response here from the Hounds. 7.5 in. They see 3 in right. They go for the Gold Fury. And they're going to pick it up. Takes a little bit of time. But they're going to scoop that one, no problem. Keep the gold actually slightly in their favor.
I mean, yeah, that's worth. When you see 3 people diving your tower over on right, you better be going for a gold tree. If I'm Ducky, I am mashing the VAG VGS. I'm like, go get it. There are 3 here. And I was safe, man. I was under tower. They still just used everything to try and find that kill. Unfortunately for Ducky, he goes down, but fortunately for him, his team gets Gold Fury, so that ends up being worth it. There was just really no presence elsewhere when you got 3 members over on the right side of the map. I don't think your carries are going to solo defend that one, so a smart call by Panda Cat to just stay underneath tower. Fortunately for Panda Cat, he's getting invaded, goes in for the steal. Seemed like he was able to find it, so loses that purple buff. It is a bit of a slow start, I will say. This build takes a while to ramp up. You're not really clearing with Suppress the Insolent until that second item comes through. The Transcendence isn't quite enough. And because of that, you spend a lot of your time right here at this tower line. You keep spamming 3 and just hoping that no one comes your way because you don't really want to drop that boar. Without it, you lose so much of your fight potential as well as your safety. And I did see when they were diving that tower, wrong you. You know, like the topic of conversation with Ares has always been your CC immunity, right? Are you getting an early Magi's? But, you know, the upgraded Med is so good in this meta, so what do? First item, Absolution. Wrong you just wants to drop his own ult to avoid the pull. Also can help out his team.
It's a very, different start. We started to see Absolution towards the end. I mean, like, sometimes in Masters, like, it would be sprinkled in, but it was always, like, 4 times. You know, it was tail end, it felt like, for a lot of those supports. But like you said, it's kind of a lot that feels really good. And into what the Hounds have drafted, more specifically maybe what Wrong Q is going to be finding himself up against as well. Going to be helpful is adapting, goes back over to solo. This time it's not under the tier 1, it's right around the cooldown buff. They pick up a kill, and it's a 2-0 start for the jungler here in the Leviathans. Trelly, it's still only about 200 gold separating because of that Gold Fury the Hounds were able to get. But it shows where the pressure, at least that Adapting has in mind, is going to be, and it's consistently on right.
And you can see every time there's pressure on right, Oath and Neil head over to left, blink in, trying to chase down Panic. I don't imagine he's in too much trouble, but the ult from Ducky might be enough. They're not going to go in for the dive, though. They might take the consolation prize of Wrong U.
Well, Dharmic Pillars come through, teleport from Fine OK. Pull is good, Wrong U will go down, but you've got the Cavalry here to try and avenge you. Knockups solid from Fine OK. Shinto's rotated in, but Shinto's kind of left out to dry. But it does not matter, because what is Shinto doing? He's distracting. Adapting goes in the back, kills off Oath. Adapting with enough damage, comes around, but isn't able to find everything he wants. A good taunt from Ducky. The fight has gone awry. The chains are good, and Neil Ma finds a fourth. Clean kills now for the Eldritch Hounds as they turn a fight around on left.
Yeah, the Leviathans had so many low health targets there, but just could not find a confirmed kill. All of it starts with a questionable dive onto Panda Cat. Oath recognizes he does not have the DPS, does not want to dive that tower, but Ducky ults in, right? Once Ducky ults in, now you've got this Athena that can go in for some clutch taunts, set up for the team, and of course Benny Q is there. These Agni bombs were raining true pretty much the entirety of that fight. Very clutch with the CC and the follow-up, and now the Hounds, pretty sure for the first time in this whole set, have a convincing lead, right? About 1,000 gold in their favor, 1,500 or so that they can use. Because remember, they got the gold Fury already. They have the timer. They have this Oni Fury that they could go for immediately after this fight. And relics aren't looking good. It's a relic graveyard on the side of the Leviathans. Do you think anyone on that team wants to step up to an Oni Fury right now? I'm thinking not.
That'd be scary at best. Bad decision at worst. Ducky, man, poor Ducky. Does get the dash this time. And has a little more help. Fine OK and Adapting have been doing anything in their power to make this Athena regret being an Athena. But as of now, with Oath and Benny Q rotating in, that's going to stop that fight. Tier 1 was taken incredibly early over on right during that initial gank, the first gank on Ducky. And ever since that happened, Trelly, Adapting has just decided this is his home. It is right here between the blue buff and the experience buff of the Eldritch Hounds, and nothing is going to make him move.
I mean, why would you? And now that Ducky has beads, I think you're probably not spending too much time here. But when Athena starts teleport, and she already has a global, and you're an Ao Kuang, yeah, keep looking for those executes, keep looking for those kills if possible. Benny Q does back up there. I thought maybe he's going to have to relic just because Adapting was on the way, but decides against it. He's got plenty of CDR, and this one dash is enough. That's what I was talking about. The Hounds have the timer. They start going for this Fury immediately. And unless Wrong U can dash forward, nope, doesn't even try. That Oni Fury goes down for free, and the Eldritch Hounds continue their lead. And I love this play, by the way. They're not just going for the Fury. They didn't use much, right? They didn't drop ultimate, so they're still stepping forward, looking for a fight if possible. Maybe one on a Panda Cat.
And this beautiful, beautiful shots from Coast. A little bit of assistance. Maybe didn't need everybody over there, but they get the kill. And the kill is what matters most. 0-2 now for Panda Cat. And Chelly, 13 minutes of Game 3, and we have seen more out of every facet of the Hounds comp than we got to see in Games 1 and 2 combined.
Definitely true. Does Oath have more than 5,000 damage, though, is the question. Not quite. He's only at 2,000, so he's getting there.
He's getting there.
He's definitely getting there. It's early days, and the Hounds are controlling the game so far. Shinto and Wrong U attempt to pull on the Pyro. Not going to be easy to try and go for this one. Oh, man, you were talking about how Panda Cat's having a rough time. He's 4 levels down. Can't even hide underneath this tower at this point. Coast is just begging him to take a 1v1, begging him to try and find a fight. I mean, he's got beads and Aegis. Why wouldn't you? Maybe Adapting is able to help out his duo lane partner. But it's not going to be easy to kill Coast at this point. 3-0. This CERN is dishing out a ton of damage. It's not like Ao Kuang also isn't, but I don't know if you want to trade with the level 15 CERN just yet.
Yeah, you're still 2 levels down there if you're Adapting, so an interesting fight to go into. Just like this, World Serpent forced from Fine OK. He's going to fall back to his own blue buff. Maybe a different pace of game for the Hounds, and one that has been rewarding. 3,000 gold, 14 minutes in. And they're leading by 2 kills and 5-3. And so it is just, I mean, better. It's everything that we've been asking for. And finally some signs of life out of them. We'll have to see how the Leviathans themselves are going to respond. Pyromancer started up by the Eldritch Hounds and spotted pretty instantly by Wrong U. Adapting goes into the back. Looks for some damage onto Benny. He instead is isolated right next to Neil Ma. He got a little bit of damage thrown his way. Ult from Neil was going to be met with beads and ults from Adapting and Shinto respectively. So CC immunity down for a couple of targets, maybe openings for the Hounds in the next few minutes.
And the Kobe, that Pyromancer wasn't dropped, still picked up here. BennyQ actually dashes forward. Wrong U is the target, but how much damage does Coast have? Plenty is the answer. Wrong U drops, and the Pyromancer isn't looking too good either.
Right now, it is control, control, control. The Hounds, the massive surprise after the first 2 games, turning things around, finally looking comfortable. Get themselves the Pyromancer. Maybe just another kill to add to it. Why not? Shinto isolated and killed off in mid. And now the tier 1 tower gonna fall right after. FineOk's lurking behind. What can you do when you're in a 3v5? PandaCat stuck over and left. FineOk taunted in by Ducky. They go for the kill. Executes good onto BennyQ. Now the dash forward, they go for the solo laner. Fine, Ducky, double kill for Adapting. Now the 3v3 can continue, and the Dharmic Pillars get dropped. That's going to shred some of this health bar. Can't quite dive the tier 1 just yet if you're Adapting. You want to keep that HP, but Wrong U's leading the way. Chains are good from Neil. FineOk goes deep, misses the spit. Has PandaCat rotating in, no escape, gets pulled, but it's been held by FineOk for the tower, and that opens up Coast for a clean kill. Adapting picks up a third 6 and 1, and the Ao Kuang finds the response the team has needed.
I mean, that was so perfectly played. You watch FineOk go in, he plays it slow, he knows there's weak targets. You know what, I'll call it perfectly played, but also the Eldritch Hounds step up a little bit too far. That tier 2 tower was greedy. The question is, how much can Oath get in return, though? Someone needs to split off. There's no way they can stay grouped up here as 3 low health targets. Someone needs to take the bullet. It might have to be Wrong U, so it seems like he started backing second. They're not even going to go for the dive. They're just going to let this back. Wow, Eldritch Hounds end up getting nothing off of that besides the tier 2 tower. All the while, Leviathans juggling aggro between FineOk, between Adapting, able to find the execute onto BennyQ. Immediately turns that into the chase down. Ducky goes down. Continue diving. Coast goes down. I mean, so much. 6 and 1 now for the Ao Kuang. But all that turns into is the 1 level lead in the jungle, and that's pretty much it. I mean, PandaCat got some free farm, which is nice, but I think you're still going to need a bit more if you want to try and fight back into this one. The Leviathans, that is a good first step, though. They're able to counter if the Eldritch Hounds make a mistake. If they step too far forward, they still do have that damage.
And right now, I mean, 6 kills. Feels great for Adapting. 6 assists on FineOk. He's been a part of every single kill as well.
I don't think they know.
And that's going to be a Fire Giant started up. And like you said, they don't know. In fact, they're on the beacon right now. They're on left. They're going for the Primal Fury. And it is wide open territory for the Fire Giant. Ducky should spot this out. He's going to know. They've got CC. They're going to walk over. The damage, it's all going to be the toss-up. What can they do? Not take it away. Can you survive? The answer's going to be no, at least for Ducky. Executed up into the air. Adapting is going to find himself, I guess, retreating with the rest of his team. Kill on board for PandaCat. Now it's 7 to 7. The Hounds had a massive early lead. But the way the Leviathans have played, Trelly, the last couple of minutes, nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. Usually when you're a level 16 Artemis who's 1 and 2, 2 levels behind, and you just don't have a chance in hell in boxing your opposition, you're pretty much delegated to sitting in duo lane, farming, and hoping you can catch up. You split push a bit.
Hoping.
PandaCat, I'm not sure whose call it was. Maybe it was his own. Maybe the team said, hey, yeah, you're not ahead. You can't do much in lane. Get over here. Rotate to fire. And he does. Sneakily gets over there. Coast is none the wiser. They say, hey, free Fury and Beacon. Now the Leviathans have a free 20-minute Fire Giant. They're going to be able to grab some towers, possibly that Pyromancer as well. This is a good look for the Leviathans to try to get back into this game. Still behind in gold, but if they're able to get everything they want with this FG, that's not going to be the case for long.
Well, they got minions on left and a Hunter that has a Fire Giant buff. And so as long as they can keep that pressure up, it should be fine. You see Coast rotating in. And that really brings us to, I think, the important question. BennyQ's going to come over here. Never mind. The important question's gone now. It's just how much are you willing to kind of commit for this tier 2 tower right now if you are the Leviathans. And honestly, Charlie, it's a lot more than I thought. They've got 4 rotated over. Shinto's going to continue pushing down mid, knocks down the tier 1 tower there. Keeps things in control between the two teams. But this is going to be the hard part, trying to actually break into the base. You've got good defense coming up from the Hounds. You're, like you said, sub-20 minute for the Fire Giant. And so this could be a really easy hard defense for the Hounds as long as they hold on to it.
Yeah, they're playing this smart. I mean, split up the opposition. Oath is over on the right side. The map hasn't quite revealed himself yet as Shinto was pushing up mid by himself to see who would try and defend that tier 2. But if no one shows up, Shinto and Adapting will grab that tier 2 for free. Oath seems to be the call. He has enough clear to step forward. But are you feeling confident enough to push into a tier 2 tower with the taunt from Ducky, the possible ult in from Neilmon, the damage that Benny Q and Vapor's Coast are able to output? Does not seem like the case. Minute 30 left on the power play. There is still a Pyromancer that can be grabbed, and Adapting and Shinto will do that. And I guess the duo lane is delegated just grabbing some buffs and backing up. Not the most impactful Fire Giant, but what it has done is even up that gold lead, split up the map presence a bit, and shown that the Leviathans, despite being down a ton, can still fight back.
And at this point, you've actually taken the gold lead if you're the Leviathans. And so from 4,000 back to even, anything from here is just a net gain. And Charlie, all it cost was a Beacon and a Primal Fury, so I don't even think they're upset about it. Unable to get the tier 2s though, and like you said, with only, well, now 45 seconds left, probably not going to get any tier 2s. They saw what happened the other way, right? The Hounds, that big fight in mid happened because they pushed for the tier 2 in mid. So just trying to keep things a little more equal, a little more even. Virtually identical builds, and by virtually, now that I've looked at it closer, it is the exact same build for Shinto and Panda Cat. And so now that we've hit this late game, and more specifically, 19-19 in mid, 18-19 Panda Cat to Coast, it feels like we can actually see a lot more from the Artemis and from the Marty to really get into the fight and actually lead the team, as opposed to what we've been seeing and kind of what you had referenced earlier, where most of the time you just get relegated to a farm machine.
That would be the usual call, but the Elder Towns recognize there's probably members of the team on the left side of the map, so why not push in for a tier 2? It's not like Final K and Adapting can stop this tower from going down. They can try and chase afterwards, but it won't be the easiest play to make. It does seem that there isn't any chase down potential because the rest of Leviathans are already back home. Actually, there are some low health bars here, and Adapting's got the wraparound, but the rest of the team is so far away. It's going to be a while before Adapting wants to show face here. At the very least, Fine OK is making sure that the Elder Towns have to continue running. It's not going to be easy to try and go for the fight. He's even ulting in. I think the Hounds can just run, though.
Well, how much do the Leviathans want to commit, or are they just trying to open up the Fire Giant pit for themselves? And it's only a little bit of damage. Like you said, Fine OK devotes the ultimate, so it's going to be a little bit easier to kill off. Beacon alive over on the left side of mid. Fire Giant going to be spawning in just a few seconds. Leviathans have control of the pit. Since that last big fight, it still stayed 7-7. Even though the gold has started to skew towards the Chaos team. Fire Giant starts to go. They're going to drop this pretty instantly. And Trelly, we find ourselves staring at each other one more time, 23 minutes in. Beacon spawns, Titans at this point with the towers would spawn over and left. And it looks like Leviathans are going to go ahead and try to get that one rolling, see where the Titans not just go, but what they can do maybe on their own.
I like that call because Leviathan said, hey, if no one shows up for some reason, yeah, we'll go for the insta-burn. But if anyone shows up, we don't really want to fight. Remember, Final K's ultimate is still down. You highlighted it very well. The World Serpent is the best way to get out of jail. Final K didn't have beads, he didn't have blink. So yeah, if your ult's not up, you probably don't want to look for that scrap. And they decided against it. They go over and grab the beacon. Remember, beacon changes are impactful still. You're not getting that extra movement speed anymore. You actually get extra damage, which is a big deal. Leviathans were able to finally grab one for themselves, and now it's the Eldritch Hounds who are able to go in for the Fire Giant. It's going very quickly.
Yeah, the burn is there. Do they have the secure? Leviathan step up. It is going to be the Hounds who pick this one up. Now the fight afterward matters just as much, because can you stay alive with the buff? The answer is not only yes, it's emphatic. They can kill off Wrong You and get aggressive. They look like they're going to trade Neil Mize. Getting low, one more hit is all you need. Adapting goes in, execute onto Coast. Looks like he's going to land where? Oath or Neil? The answer's both. Might as well find him. Tries to chase it down, gets a double by taking care of Oath. Panda Cat picks up the scraps. 4 gone in the blink of an eye. The Hounds get the FG, lose the fight.
I mean, that looked like a good fight too, right? I mean, the Eldritch Hounds, they get the 50-50, which was very close. Oath jumps away, which I think was the correct call. Leaving could have been easy. The difficulty, of course, is that Neilma is Ares. You're either in or you're out, and Neil was in. He goes in for the ult, and the rest of the team decides, hey, can we go in or not? They say yes, and now it's up to Ducky to try and keep the Titan alive up against 4. They are not going to go in for the end call because there isn't a Titan here. It's over in left lane. Unfortunately for the Leviathans, they had plenty of time, but they just didn't have anything to kill. They can go in for the tier 2 tower, retreat for their Titan, and this game's going to go just a little bit longer.
They get the mid Phoenix. They get the tier 2 on left, so more gold in their pockets. That's going to be helpful at the minimum. And Shelly, it goes back to that conversation. I'm sure the Leviathans, I mean, you couldn't have really predicted that kind of fight, that level of fight going your way. We've had conversations in the past on whether or not it's worthwhile just maybe letting the beacon sit there for a few minutes. So if you have the opportunity to end, you could still potentially go for that final hit. Instead, like you said, FineOK sent over towards left is going to clear that out. The Chaos Titan not faring much better, but it is still alive. Teleport from FineOK comes over towards right. The Leviathans step up to the Pyromancer to block off the Hounds. They're going for a fight. Neil, you said it. If he's in, he's in. He's not going to have too much in terms of aggression. I think that was a Frenzy used by Ramu. And it's not going to get him too much, except a Pyromancer, which at this rate is going to open up a lot of doors. One Runic Bomb in pocket, and it's on the 8-1 and 2 Ao Kwang. And Trelly, now it's just for the Leviathans to figure out where to go and the Hounds to figure out how to stop it.
Yep, still have to deal with the Titan. The Hounds are able to drive that one back, but the Leviathans have a tier 2 tower on their mind. Remember, they didn't get Fire Giant. In fact, the only member of anyone that has one is Ducky. He has FG buff. No one else does. And the Leviathans, they say, hey, we got a mid-bird down. Might as well push up with the tier 2 over on right. Seems as free as a tower you're going to be able to grab. And decide to go back to base because Shinto's holding on to 3,000 gold currently in his hand. Could get a full Heartseeker, could get, you know, a Blood Forge if that's something he's looking for, but Heartseeker more often than not is the call, and that is what he's able to grab. So now even more damage to these tankier targets. Ducky, Neil, they're getting shredded by the ability damage that Shinto's able to output, as well as the fact that adapting is close to that Typhon's Fang. That percent pen goes a long way. He's been able to get some kills and executes onto these squishier targets, but there are Typhons at the end of your build, and you're able to kill just about anyone.
Primal Fury, next target up for the Leviathans. Really how things have changed. 4,000 gold about 10 minutes ago in favor of the Hounds. Now Leviathans pushing 6,000.
Oath did it.
Oath did it. He passed 5K.
Not by a wide margin, but has done it. And again, Baka's not a he's not a poke. He's not a poke jungler.
Yeah.
It's very difficult when your team is losing on these picks to try and make impactful plays. Like I think the Susana was a bit different, but as a Baka, you're all-inning, and hopefully you're getting a kill and trading with your life at this point. He's got Deathbringer, he's got Bladed Boomerang. The crits are nice, but unfortunately adapting is just able to heal up off his minions, so that 1v1 is never going to be fun. Shinto just has so much safety, and Pandacat is able to drop Tusky, so I don't see any room for Oath to go in unless someone else on his team is creating space for him, right? If Ducky is dashing the backline, taunting, forcing beads, if BennyQ hits a massive stun. So definitely a better look for Oath in this game, but still has not been able to find too much success, sitting at 2-2-2. And Leviathans have no other option but group up for another iteration of this Fire Giant fight. All Phoenixes will be back up at that point. The mid-bird will be respawning anytime now. And Leviathans just want to try and set up an ambush, pull some beads before the fight begins. That's been the call. They're already stepping up.
We've got about 30 seconds now, a little shy of 30 seconds to wait before it's here. I'm immediately jumping. Part of me wanted to talk to you about the Tiki Mask, but at this point, I don't know how much. I mean, you've got a red buff, a purple buff, green buff there for FineOK. So small benefits, I think, coming from those, having the masks alongside them. It's going to be some poke back and forth between the two teams, but Leviathans, at this point, they've sold the recipes, they've got their 6 items. And for a majority of them, it's tier 3s, Heartseekers, Typhon's Fang. And so how does the play, if you're the Hounds right now, and let's say you can play chess with them, right? You put them into the right position. how do you see them trying to get aggressive to this Fire Giant, and can they? I guess we'll find out before you can even answer it, because the Leviathans are going to give us the opportunity to chat. Take the Fire Giant down. It's at 1/3 health. Finally, they drop it, and maybe give you the opportunity to figure out how the Hounds can try to get in here and be successful.
I mean, Neil's been stepping forward, but every time he does, he gets poked out. Final K is not taking the same amount of damage. This Ares is just so immobile. Finally, the Fire Giant's picked back up, and Final K goes to the back line. The Leviathans, are they looking for a fight? Are they looking for the pull? They might not have a choice. Final K wants to go in.
Yeah, it looks like the fight. Final K's half health.
Oh my
now
goodness.
actually lower the bombs from BinnyQ. A lot of damage on those towards Final K. And then immediately, Trelly, pause, reset, back for the World Serpent. Gets aggressive, teleports in. Fire Giant started getting burned quick. Taunt from Ducky, tries to get things going. Fire Giant goes over to the Leviathans. And now the chase is on. BinnyQ, half health. Neil Ma, half health, and knocked up. The damage should be there. The execute is good. And now the dive forward from the Ao Kuang from the Leviathans is going to be there. BinnyQ forced to use his Aegis. Coast and him dash simultaneously. Get under the mid Phoenix. Need to reset. Oath backing to base. And you've got Ducky, but no Neil Ma in a 5v4 for the next 38 seconds.
This Fire Giant is in hand, so these Phoenixes will drop without minion waves regardless. Mid already gone. BinnyQ is going to be the best line of defense here. He's got good wave clear, he's got good poke, but he has 0 relics. Any bit of stun, any bit of CC towards this Agni could be the Titan going down.
Pressure is on. Stun good from BinnyQ. Leviathans leading this 12-8. The Hounds have put up a good fight in the early game. Now they got to continue putting up a good fight around this Phoenix. Tusky goes in, stuns Ducky, stuns Coast, stuns Binny, and gets the damage, opens up the bird, and the Leviathans step in and take it. Trelly, they're playing cautiously though. They fall back. More content to just break this base, get the fire minions going. A reset before what could be the final fight.
This is what I'm talking about. I mean, a grouped up fight underneath Phoenix where you can just drop Tusky, do 1,500 damage across 3 different targets, stun them, and they weren't even looking for a fight. That was more of a distraction, just so they could go in. Neilma, though, wants to try and siege forward. They need a fight now. Wrong-U's looking weak.
And they're going to find him. The damage is there from Coast. Now the no escape tries to pull people in, but Shinto matches it ult for ult. Looks for the damage back into the fight. It's going to be BinnyQ, who's low. BinnyQ, though, who lives through this one. They find the kills they need. It's 2 for 1. Neil has gone down, but you need some more kills, and Panda Cat has shown up. Panda Cat is unscathed in this fight and finding shots wherever he needs them. BinnyQ makes it back to base. Oath retreats, but it is now 3-on-2. Damage dealers versus damage dealers. What can the jungler and the mid laner for the Hounds do in the face of 2 carries? No Phoenix is up, fire minions coming down mid. BinnyQ stun over the wall onto Panda Cat, gets a lot of damage. It's gonna force them to rethink their engage. Force the Leviathans to rethink this fight.
Wow.
They fall back one more time.
Benny makes a good play there, because if they had timers down, this game is over. BinnyQ has 0 relics. If he dashes ever, Panda Cat says, okay, here's Tusky, here's a trap, you're dead, GG. But I don't think they knew the relics were down, and more specifically, Panda Cat walks into 2 bomb stuns and says, all right, time to go. We don't have an end call any longer, so they decide to retreat for now. As far as EFGs go, I mean, you got 2 Phoenixes down essentially for free. I think the Eldritch Hounds do finally show us that sense of urgency. They make a chase down play where Neil brings the team forward, sends Ducky in with the ultimate, and they're able to grab some picks, but not enough to try and bring that Titan down. There is still 1 more Phoenix left to grab, and Leviathans only have 1 minute left with their carries having enhanced Fire Giant. Do not think they decide to push forward. Maybe set up an ambush, maybe look for a fight, but that right side bird doesn't look very likely in this amount of time.
At this point, maybe even push up the mid fire minions. Those are getting pushed back. Left wave, it's been kind of under control. Looks like they're going to send Ducky over to try and deal with those. Or maybe Ducky's just trying to get some gold, balance things out. Just shy of 10,000 ahead for the Leviathans. And they fought back from something pretty steep. 4K, sub 20 minutes. But a Fire Giant call super early on opened up a very important conversation for them to get back into this game. Right side Phoenix. I thought there would be something explosive, maybe a defense. Instead, it's just step up and kill it from the Leviathans. And Trelly, now they're just waiting right outside the base. Like you said, only a few seconds left on the EFG for 2 of them, but with the Phoenixes down, you might not need it.
They are hiding in the grass. 1 target that steps forward could be the end. The other towns are playing this one safe. I respect the call to not defend right. They said, hey, we already have 2 Phoenixes down. It's not like our Titan's going to regen anyways. We might as well not throw for a Phoenix when we can try and defend the Titan. All the while, Ducky was over on the left side of the map keeping minions out. And the Leviathans, I mean, they could go in here, but I think they're just stalling for Enhanced Fire Giant to come in and see if they can find relics. Doesn't seem like something they need to overcommit for. Play it slow, look for poke. If you get a free Phoenix, sure. If not, back up.
Vinnyq's damage has been pretty important so far. Good taunt from Ducky on the wrong U. Met with a stun. And again, those bombs from the Agni, which spreads out a lot. The Phoenix goes down. They've honestly bought enough time. Left side's right about to come up. But instead, like you said, stalling until the real prize is back on the board. EFG going to be spawning in just a few seconds. Leviathans set themselves up to go back in.
Why not? I mean, you need EFG to go in for the end call. Gotta back up, look for some farm until it's time to go in. I think the interesting play here is on the Elder Towns now. Do you sit in your Titan room, wait for the impending doom, wait for that Fire Giant to go down and try and fight in your base? Or do you take to the jungle, get some ward coverage, and set up an ambush? Because they just cleared a ward, the Leviathans know exactly where the Hounds are, so I don't think any ambushes will be the call. But there is still one more wave of fire minions over and left that Ducky would have to deal with if he doesn't want his bird to drop down. Enhanced Fire Giant is spawned and currently being zoned. The Elder Towns, I think they're going to give up that Phoenix and try and find a fight, but there's already gone. There's no way. You step up towards fast speed buff, but EFG's gone. Retreat is the play, and trying to keep your Titan alive is the new call.
Right now, I got to give a shout out. FineOK has been a part of every single kill for the Leviathans.
0-1 and 15.
And I don't expect, well, I expect maybe the slash line to change depending on how the fights go. But I don't expect the part of all of their kills part to change. It all depends on what goes on here. Rongyu's getting melted early, but the Dharmic Pillars and now the retaliation from the Leviathans have the Hounds on the run. Immediate dive from FineOK knocks them apart and keeps them under control. Low health bars, Adapting goes in, Adapting gets a kill, and 2 gone instantly on the Hounds. FineOK loses his life for going in too deep. Low health bar here for Rongyu and for PandaCat. Adapting a little over half. Enhanced Fire Giant gonna help heal them up just a little bit, but you got Coast, Vinnyq, and Oath to defend against 4 on the Leviathans.
We're just waiting for Bennyq's damage to go down, really, because without Oath's ultimate, he is not worth much. He needs Regurgitate to really make a play here. It's all about, is Bennyq stunned down? If so, let's walk forward. Coast also has plenty of shred, but no Odibo, no ability to hit these AoE attacks. It's really just all on Bennyq to stall this end call. And Leviathan said, hey, we've got regen, we've got EFG, we can sit here for a bit. They still have 20 seconds without their tanks.
Yeah, those low health bars, most of them are full now. Dharmic Pillars gets dropped. It's going to be the Titan, that's the goal, and it's going to be a 3-0 here. The Leviathans coming in strong after a roster swap and put the Hounds down.
Wow, I mean, I think we all expected a bit of an explosive matchup here. I did not expect it to be this one-sided. I mean, very difficult games from the Elder Towns early on. I did like the life that we saw in game number 3, but it can't take 3 games for you to ramp up, right?
Yeah.
Game 1 and 2, pretty sleeper. They were able to find some farm, yes, some gold maybe, but actual fights, actual plays, it was like one attempted sneak at a Fire Giant, and besides that, they kind of got rolled over.
Bad news for the Hounds is they're out now, right? The 3-0 is going to be done for them this weekend. Good news for the Hounds is they've got 2 weeks to watch those 3 games and figure out how to stop that from happening again before they get back into the regular season. For the Leviathans, it's a good 3-0. Like you said, the first 2 games pretty clean. That last one starts out rough, but after that big fight in mid was really the big turning point. And they make it look good from there, but that's going to do it for myself and Charlie. We're going to throw back to the desk, and they can break this one down.
What a tough matchup for the Elder Towns, man. There was a point in that game, Bobby, where we look over the dual lane. You literally screamed it. You said, PandaCat's 5 levels down? What's going on? And I thought to myself, that's it. There's no comeback there. There's really no way to fight back in. Egg on my face. The Atlantis Leviathans clearly found it off the back of great macro plays, off the great objective plays for the most part. I mean, they were splitting the map so well. But what is it that you saw from the Leviathans that bounced them back in?
I mean, I think it's just they bided their time until they saw that opening. That fight in mid that was brought up, that is when the game kind of turned. 4 levels down for PandaCat before then. That fight in mid, Final K wraps around, adapting ends up getting a double, I think maybe even a triple kill, and from there it's just the game is even. Then they get the Fire Giant, they trade it for Gold Fury Beacon. Well, it was a little bit not even still, but then it became even with that fight, and eventually, slowly but surely, they clawed their way back into the game, and then they started getting on the offensive. And I liked that we got to see this side of the Levi's and not just a third game where they just stomped. Game 1, Game 2, absolutely great mid-game, great early game by the Levi's. Game 3, really, really bad early game by the Levi's. Honestly, Hounds, really good early game. But now we get to see that that Levi's team can even play from behind. I think the Hounds have things that they can take from this game. I think they can build on it. I do think that, like you said, macro is something that they need to touch up on. They really got out-macroed, but, I mean, overall, just a great set by the Levi's.
Yeah, Levi's really do bring a whole lot of styles to this. I mean, 3 distinct compositions that play very differently. 2 games that are essentially won the same way, which is every facet of the game goes to Leviathans. But, of course, Game 3, not only a different composition, not only a different strategy, but also having to play from behind, showing their chops and showing the versatility of this team. PandaCat, it's almost like he never left. Really, I mean, it's 6-month break. Doesn't reflect on him whatsoever. He had a great time, barring maybe the laning phase there in Game 3. Vaporish Coast gets the better end of that one, but otherwise, team fights, relic usage, all still there. PandaCat just at home here in the SPL, and the Leviathans, I'm sure, very happy to set the record straight so early on in the phase. Great stuff from them. My heart goes out to the Hounds. It's a really tough game to lose like that. And take a look across the board. Starts down 4 levels, ends the game 5-2. That looks pretty good. Shinto's putting up 33,000 damage. Final Craze essentially affecting every single kill onto the map out of the solo lane. I mean, this was a multi-headed effort from the Leviathans, and the Hounds just weren't quite ready to stand up to it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just comes back to the backliners from this Levi's. It's like they've been playing together for a while. They were always positioning near each other when they needed to be. They were peeling for each other, a lot of damage, and everything about it was just really smooth. There was really no, drop in communication or anything like that. They just picked off right where you'd expect that they would pick up if they play the entire phase 1 together.
Well, you've heard it from us. Now we can hear it from the players themselves. I think Gormizer standing by with a special guest.
That's right. I got Shinto standing here, and I'm really excited for this because, after seeing you guys come through in Game 1 and 2, I'm curious from your perspective, was it as smooth as it looked? Because it felt like the gameplay was pretty much one-sided from our perspective.
Yeah, the first game and the second game, it was very, very clean sweep, we feel like. But then the third game, we fight in duo, and we get pretty much wiped, and the game get kind of hard after that. But then Ronnie got a great fire giant, and, yeah, we put it up.
And Game 3, I'm kind of curious. What was it? PandaCat's 4 levels down. It feels like the Hounds are finally, in the game. What are the comms like, and how level-headed is the team to stay in that moment and win a big fight?
Yeah, I mean, we knew we have the better late game, so we just need to chill and don't give kills to the other team. And they have a really aggressive dual lane too, so we just need to chill. And like what I say, we just did a really great fire gen, and we win.
And I got to ask PandaCat about it, but I'm kind of curious for your perspective because the team's changed so much over the last couple of years. What's it like having him on the team and in the backline with you?
For me, it's an honor because he's a friend of mine. I've been wanting to play with him for a long time, and he's so fun. It's so fun to play again with him and with all the team, too.
And you guys look great. A nice 3-0 to start off the second half of this year. So congratulations on the win, man. Thanks for your time. We'll go back to the desk.
Good words there from the Leviathans mid laner. I mean, clearly just happy to have been able to take that dub, and didn't really seem like he was too surprised by it either. That was a confident interview given. What do you think, Bobby? Is this a trend starting to develop for the Leviathans? Is this a one-off? Where are you at?
I think you have to say it's a trend. That was 3 games, like you said, distinct styles, different parts of the game that they excelled in. All of it, just like everything kind of came together. Now, I do think that they have to do this against some of the top-tier teams because, I mean,
they got one coming up.
Warriors, stuff like that. But if anything this game shows, it shows that they do have that style where they can play very, very good Smite.
And so as we take a look at the bracket, you can make a breakdown of exactly what has gone on so far. We've only played the quarterfinals, so Ferryman 3-0, Oni Warriors 3-0, Atlantis Leviathans 3-0. Next up, We the Jade Dragons and the Highland Ravens. We'll see whether or not that 3-0 train continues. I'm hoping for a little bit of a longer set, but we will get an idea of maybe our first semifinal matchup, the Oni Warriors and the Atlantis Leviathans, a little bit later on this week. I am very excited for that one. Not only is it just the Oni Warriors and the insane narratives around this team, one of the undefeated rosters makes a swap, but the Leviathans clearly looking rejuvenated, maybe can take the set to them. But before that, it's the Jade Dragons and the Ravens. You got any predictions?
I think this will be, well, it's hard not to say that it's going to be the best set because we've had only 3-0s. This one is not going through, it's going to go more than 3
Guaranteed.
games. Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
One team is going to take at least one win. That's my prediction. I think this will be the best set. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be a 3-0, but I think at the very least this will be the best set.
Yeah, I'll be keeping my eyes on the duo lane. Seems like a lot of that meta has been developed there. If you want to catch that set, make sure you stick around, grab a drink, grab a snack. We'll be right back.
Yeah, come on. I could write this in my sleep. Say you don't sleep, but I sleep. That's why you're sleeping on me. Why? Energy, energy, energy. Don't say a word or a peep. No. Me, I'm just me, I'm me. I keep it true, I don't sneak. Energy, energy, energy. I hit being on the road. Hard as a home when I'm home. Watching my babies get old. That gets me into my zone. That gets me into my groove. You know I'm nice, I'm not rude. Got no time for attitudes. Energy, energy, energy. Yeah, 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 come on. Yeah, 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 come on. Yeah, 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 come on. Yeah, 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 come on.